I'm here for the.
Recording in progress. Okay, here we are. I don't know if this show's going to work, but
I'm here for the clan meeting. Wondering.
You're here for the Invisible Man meeting.
Yeah. Yes, I was Picasso's favorite model, and he would take me to lunch. We're okay.
I'll do a quick introduction. Okay. This is Mark Arnold, the Fun Ideas Podcast. I don't know why I'm doing a show today with two people. We're not going to make it through this. This is going to be too much comedy shtick.
Okay, I'm done. That's all I do.
Nick Santa Maria is raising the curtain, and Kamden is being our audience right now. It's Red Nose Day, or what is that? Red Cap Day.
Red Cap Day. Yeah.
Nick, I want to ask you a question.
Yes, sir. Ow.
So there's a bookstore in my area. I live in Birmingham, Alabama.
Birmingham.
Yeah.
Birmingham.
Yeah, I live in the blue part of Alabama. The one with medicine I live in. So I have this book that I got at the
blue part. I hope you cheer up eventually. Yes.
I have this guy got this book at a used bookstore. It's one of the coolest bookstores around. And it's a copy of Film Fun magazine, which is a comic book from Britain.
I love Film Fun. It's great. Yes. Who's on the cover? I can't tell. The covers are always the best.
Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy, of course. Let's see.
Some of them will be British.
Yes. The British people I'm not really familiar with. Oh, Joey Brown.
Yeah.
Frank Randall.
Manchester comic.
Yes. So I was going to ask, are you going to discuss film, any kind of comic book work of Abbott and Costello in your book?
Well, the book's already written. So no, we didn't go into that. It's mostly about the films.
Okay.
In different forwards and also a couple of addendums. We write about other stuff, but mainly it's about the films.
Yeah, but like that bookstore is really cool. Like the first thing you see and you're walking the lot is a Three Stooges poster with Paul Winchell at the bottom.
Oh, Stop, Look, and Laugh.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember loving that movie as a kid, and then as you get older, it's kind of like, oh, God, Stop, Look, and Laugh.
They also have a Donald Duck.
You like the Marquis Chimps? Come on, you're a big fan. Come on.
I only like them with Jack Benny. Only with Jack Benny.
They also have a Donald Duck marquee where it's like how they would have those small posters outside the theater. They have like the sign that would be outside the theater.
Yeah, how cool! That's very cool. Where is that? I mean, that's in Birmingham?
Yeah, that's a bookstore. It's like really cool. Yeah, where it's I work at a library and they say, hey, do you know Jim Reed? I'm like, oh yeah, Jim Reed knows me. Unfortunately, Jim Reed knows me well.
You're like an open book.
Yes. I think
So
we talked about Pogo for 45 minutes and he was supposed to be helping people in the store.
My kind of worker. What library do you?
I work at the Illinois Library in Mountain Brook. My goal is to have a master's degree in library science. I'm majoring in film right now at a med school. Yeah.
You're film at a med school.
No, it's film, and it's a school that has film as a minor, but I'm majoring in it. It's an idea.
Do you only shoot in X-rays?
No, it's not a med. Not my campus, not a med school, but mainly most people go there for med. But they also have an arts and science thing.
Oh well, cool. Good luck to you.
Thank you. I'm going to be a senior next year.
You can
Fantastic.
You can star in a reboot of Doctor at Large.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and I can play the large doctor.
There's your obscure reference. Before we start, I actually have a plan for this show. I don't know if it happened, but before we start,
I'm sorry, you are?
Oh yeah, I'm just watching.
I'm Marvin Mimmelman.
I'm the operator. I'm the operator. I connected your call.
Is your Florida call, Mr. Whitmore?
Anyway, just to piggyback on what Kamden says, I know Kamden, I'll get off your back, but anyway, This magazine, if you've never seen it, it's a British magazine called Infinity. I'm holding it low because it disappears when I do anything up here. See, so
Yeah.
anyway, but they did. This is a old, previous issue. They did an actual like 5-page article on the history of film fun magazines. So, and they do that. They talk about British comedians. They talk about British science fiction and blah blah blah, and then they talk about American stuff, but how it was in England. So you get a different take on it. So. Highly recommended if you don't ever see it. You know, I always forget the name because Infinity doesn't mean anything to me, but like the latest issue I think has Capricorn 1. This one had Mad Max on the cover. Previous one had the monkeys on the cover. So it's like there's
Wow.
Yeah. And they just
that's
go
interesting. That's
all
interesting.
over the map. But yeah, they do talk about comedians. And you know, I remember last time we were talking, you were talking about that you are very versed in British comedians. And I think this current issue, if I remember correctly, there's a big article about Kenny Everett, you know, and things like that. You know, and it's like, you know, he's kind of obscure to most people here, you know.
Oh yeah, a lot of them don't translate to here.
Yeah.
A lot of them never made it over that barrier, and a lot of funny ones didn't make it, but mostly because the audience didn't understand what they were saying, for one thing, which helps, you know. And the other thing is, you know, there was a style. In fact, in Great Britain, there was Northern comedy and there was Southern comedy.
Yeah.
And the Southerners didn't get the Northern comedy and the Northerners didn't get the Southern comedy. So how do they expect us to get it? You know what I mean?
So
it's very interesting.
In your studies, which British comedian do you think could have or should have become successful here? Or would you have liked to have and they just didn't? So it's like your secret. Like it's really funny.
That's a very interesting question. That's a very good question, Mark. A question mark. I think that's what I used to call my grammar. I think
and the Mysterians? Okay.
He exclaimed. No, whatchamacallit, there are a couple, if I may. There was one by the name of Arthur Askey, who was I always compare him to, he was sort of like the Eddie Cantor of the British films. A musical, but also very funny, you know, fast moving, whatever, a lot of corny jokes. And you could understand him when he spoke. He was very articulate that way. So him, a lot of people loved Will Hay, and a lot of his movies played in the United States. Yeah. And I've got all his movies, and they're a lot of fun, and he's hilarious. And he's got these two stooges he works with all the time, Moore Marriott, Graham Moffat.
No, I thought you were going to pull up a Will Hay movie. I was like, if you have a Will Hay movie, Kamden, because he surprises
Three Stooges.
He surprises me. I mean, he's only 21 and he knows more than I do at 54. You know, it's like.
That's incredible, Kamden. You know, I was a freak too when I was your age, even earlier.
Yeah, that's what people called me. So they said, wait, there's some girl walked up there, and I went to an all boys school, and I was that one person who worked in the tech thing that also got paid, but I just got paid not because I knew about tech. I would do anything they would say. They repair this computer, okay, show me. But so the girl walks in, I'm like, oh wow, for once a chick walks in. They're like who's a nerd here? And everyone's just like, we are. He says, but who knows about science? We're like, I'm like, I don't. He's like, so wait. Okay, he says Kamden does because he's trying to throw me under the bus, my friend, right? And I'm like, it's like he knows all about this stuff. And I'm like, it's like he's all in sci-fi. I'm like, well, that's true. I'm into sci-fi. He says, yeah, and he reads Superman comics. Like, that's true. He says, you know how to do science? I'm like, I hate science class. He's like, wait. You know, so wait, you're a nerd, but you don't know science. But yeah, so she says, oh, you're a freak. And then she walks out the door. I'm like, wow.
Wow, that breaks things down, doesn't it?
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
First girl who walks into this who walks onto this campus, and then she calls me a freak.
She calls you a freak. Right. Well, you know, there's nothing like building self-confidence.
Freaks and geeks.
That's right. That's right. For weeks.
All right. Quiz time before we continue with what I'm actually going to do. So I have a picture of a British comedian. Here's a little clue. It's the top of his head.
You have glue on his head?
No, it's just a
That's right. It was a sticky situation.
Who is on my shirt? Let's see if you can guess.
Okay, if you would.
And even Kamden doesn't know because I haven't stood up yet, or if I have, he may not know.
I I don't know much about British comedians other than Stan
Well,
Laurel.
he actually, this will help. He wasn't like a Ed Hay. Is that the person you said? It wasn't like
Will
him.
Hay.
Will Hay. Okay.
Yeah.
This person actually made it big in England or Britain, and he made it big here too.
Oh,
And
okay.
he's dead now, if that helps.
Mm-hmm. It certainly helps if we're going to bury him. All right, so let's see. Can we see it? It looks like Marty Feldman.
Ta-da!
Yeah,
It is.
Marty.
Anyway.
Marty. Yeah, Marty was a funny guy.
Mm-hmm.
Funny guy.
Okay, so I didn't
Mhm.
know what we were going to talk about. Nick just wanted to talk about old time comedy, and I figured, well, let's do one thing that you and I did last time, but not just this. And I have a book here to help me out.
Ooh.
So we talked about Abbott and Costello last time, and you
Yes.
mentioned that your favorite Abbott and Costello movie was Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. I
Mhm.
mentioned mine was Little Giant, and then you actually said that is a good film.
Mine is
Right.
Frankenstein as well, actually.
And then I was going to ask Kamden, what's yours? So anyway, I dug this out, which I have. The Great Movie
Oh,
Comedians by
I
Leonard
think I have.
Maltin. So anyway.
Yeah, I
So-
think I have 3 copies.
Anyway, we're going to go through it, and we're going to say what our favorite movie is by each one of these people.
I
We
love
know.
this idea. I
All
love
right.
this
All
idea.
right. So,
I raised my bottle to you.
okay. All right. So, and if you don't know, like Kamden, if you're not versed in a particular comedian, or hey, even Nick, even
Yeah,
if
if you
you're
bring up
not-
Wheeler and Woolsey,
Yeah.
I know nothing about Wheeler and Woolsey.
Yeah, I'm not good on Wheeler and Woolsey either. I think I've seen like half a movie, and I was like, okay,
You only saw Wheeler.
yeah,
So, yeah, but that's why I'm here. This is my specialty.
okay. So, and to help you out, he's not in the book anyway. The hardest one, and we may have to jump over it, is probably Will Rogers, because I've only seen one Will Rogers movie. So
No.
anyway, let's try it out. And so,
All right, let's
and
go.
we could say favorite film by this comedian. It could be a short or a feature,
Mhm.
or least favorite.
Okay. Oh, let's do both. Let's
Yeah.
do favorite
Or
and
both.
least favorite.
Okay.
And
So,
let's okay. So yeah, go ahead.
and I'll have you start, Nick, even though I'll say the first. So number 1, Charlie Chaplin.
Okay.
behind you.
Favorite Chaplin film.
Yeah.
The guy behind you, yes. And we're all behind you too, 100%. City Lights, my favorite. A masterpiece by any stretch. My least favorite Chaplin film is probably, that's difficult. It's difficult because I really love most of them. I guess The Countess from Hong Kong would be the worst.
Most people
Yeah.
would say that, yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, everything else has merit, but this one was sort of like he should have retired at this point.
And I guess the third thing, what is the general assessment you have about Chaplin? Like,
Me?
yeah, I mean,
Ooh,
is he
I just
like one of your favorites, kind of middle of the road, or I kind of just put up with him because he's a comedian?
I just offered up a new class to the company I work for, and it's called Chaplin, the True King of Comedy. There's nobody better, ever, then or now. He was a genius. I can't even begin to, it's like you could talk about Keaton, who was also a genius, but he could not do what Chaplin did.
Okay,
Nobody could.
very cool.
That's why he's the best ever.
Kamden, you
Well, I have not seen a single Chaplin movie that was made after The Great Dictator.
that's fine.
You never saw a lot of the talkies.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
that's fine. That's fine.
The
Most
Kid.
people would see the silence. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Kid.
So, of the ones you've seen, what have you?
The Kid.
What?
The Kid.
Oh,
I
the
think
kid.
it's
Okay,
The
I'm
Kid.
sorry, I didn't. Hey,
The
what?
Kid is your favorite. The Kid is your favorite.
I guess Modern Times is my least favorite. Not because I
Wow.
don't like it. Not because I don't like it.
That's okay. It's okay. I'll be all right in a minute. It's all right. No, go ahead, Kamden. I'm sorry.
Not
Oh, that's
because I
fine.
don't like it.
Mhm.
It's because when I first saw it, I was in a class full of kids snickering and they didn't shut up.
Oh,
Oh, okay. So you didn't see it under good circumstances.
yeah.
Yeah, the first time I saw it was not under good circumstances. And honestly, the first time I saw Duck Soup was in that same circumstance.
Oh, Ouch. And we'll get to Marx
Yeah.
Brothers too. So,
Yeah.
all right.
But I
Okay.
like, but I would not say Duck Soup is my least favorite Marx Brothers movie.
Right.
So
Okay.
Chaplin overall in the grand pantheon of comedic actors, film actors.
I don't know what I'm supposed to say here.
Well, I mean, is he one of your favorites, or you think he's kind of average, or I hate him?
Well,
And
he's
you're
one of
trying
my
to say
favorite
anything.
silent comedians.
Mhm.
My favorite would be Laurel and Hardy. I actually like Keaton a little bit better than Chaplin, but I like Chaplin. Chaplin's probably my third.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, my turn. Yay. So
It's your turn.
I think I like Modern Times the best.
Good
And
choice.
it's because it's just like a hybrid of sound and silent, and I just love it where he goes to the machinery and all that stuff.
Mm.
And I like the sound scene. I like is where I think he's in the bathroom. I don't have these things memorized, and the screen comes on. The guy goes, "Hey!" like that.
Get to work.
Yeah, get to work. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. So you probably have them memorized, so you can tell me
I do.
when I'm wrong on the lines. And least favorite, well, I could say Countess of Hong Kong, but least favorite where it's the full, where he's like the star, not just guesting in it. I'm not a big fan of Monsieur Verdot.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I used to say if it's a talkie, I don't want to see it, but I actually do like Limelight pretty well. And
I like Limelight. Yeah.
King in New York is actually decent, and so
I like that.
Yeah.
But I do like Monsieur Verdoux. Right? It may be my favorite of his talkies, actually.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing I do like is when he's ruffling the money, it goes really
I
fast.
love that.
There's
And
little
that's when
funny
he's
bits in it. I think
counting the money.
my problem with Bordeaux is just, he seems a little bit too nasty in it. And
Mhm.
I don't think of Chaplin as a nasty character most of the time. I know he's just acting, but still,
Yeah.
And then also on an extra fourth one for of shorts. I like the Rink the best on the shorts.
The Rink is great.
Yeah,
The Rink is great. His 12 for Mutual are just brilliant.
Yeah.
They're just brilliant. Nobody could touch him.
And
so, and where does he fall in the pantheon of great comedians?
I will say this: I used to not like him all that much.
Mhm.
And my dad, I think I was influenced by my dad, because my dad was very opinionated, still is, about comedians he likes and dislikes. And I will tell you ahead of time, he was not a big fan of Chaplin. He was not a big fan of Marx Brothers. He loved Laurel and Hardy, loved Abbott and Costello, he loved blah blah, almost everybody else. Is just I could talk about Marx Brothers when we get to the Marx Brothers, but his problem with Chaplin was he didn't like too much of the pathos stuff. And I get it. And so he just likes pure comedy, and I kind of get it. It's like, and those are sometimes where it can get a little sicky sweet, but in general his ranking has totally improved over the years. I still think I like these two guys better as far as the silent comedians, Buster and Harold. I think Buster gets the nod for my favorite silent one, but still
I'm going to say something that might be a little blasphemous to most, but when it comes right down to it, Buster fell down a lot. Buster was really good at falling down. He really was. Chaplin was great at everything else. So I don't know. I'm sorry. I love Buster. Buster's number 2, definitely.
Yeah.
And Chaplin taught everyone. Chaplin showed everybody the way.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's move on. Who's next?
Okay. Well,
Debbie
chapter 2 is we can skip over this because I don't even remember this
come
person.
on.
Well, no, I'm not going to skip over. I'm not going to tell you, but it's like I don't even remember what this person did. I'd have to look in the book. Mabel Normand.
Oh, Mabel. Okay. Yeah.
You're on your own on this one, I think.
Considered the first.
You're on your own, Nick.
Yeah.
Considered the first female director, actually. The first famous female comedian for Max Sennett, and before that for D.W. Griffith for Vitagraph. Very, 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 very popular. As far as funny, I don't think she's made me laugh more than maybe twice in my life. She's very cute and all of that, but it's the people around her who are funny.
Yeah.
So I don't have really strong opinions about her and her work. I guess my favorite of hers would be You know what I always liked? I always liked a movie called Mabel at the Wheel. It's actually it might be a one-reeler for Senate, and Chaplin was new at the studio, and he played the villain, which was great. It was a lot of fun.
Well, she made a lot of
Should be 1914.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
she made a lot in 1914. Wow.
Oh God, yeah. Oh no, let me take it back. I take it back. No, no, no. Her best movie was Fatty and Mabel Adrift.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. I've seen that
that
one. That one's
that
actually
was
pretty good.
that's
Yeah.
her best film, her best acting, all of that stuff. As far as her worst, I don't know. She made so many negligible movies for Senate,
Yeah.
5-minute things where she kind of fell down a lot and got sprayed with seltzer. So I really can't pick
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
So we'll just kind of do that when it's somebody you probably know, and that because I don't have anything. Though I looked at her picture, I go, oh, I recognize her, but she was
Yeah.
always with like Fatty or something, which is the next one. So let's go to Fatty Arbuckle. So
Okay. First of all, I can't call him Fatty. He doesn't like being called Fatty.
Oh.
So I call him Roscoe. In memory of this poor guy. Oh, poor schmo. Anyway, the fat man.
Yes.
Again, my favorite Roscoe is Fatty and Mabel Adrift. Roscoe directed it, and there are some shots in it that are worthy of D.W. Griffith. They're just gorgeous, gorgeous, beautiful scenery. But other than that, it's a very subtle film. His acting is very subtle and very funny, and he's got Luke the dog with him too, which is always fun. So yeah, that's my favorite. My least favorite, I hope people forgive me, the people who released the DVD, but he made a feature called the Roundup. He chose his first feature to be a Western, a serious Western, where he played a supporting character. I was very disappointed. I was like, come on, I want to see Roscoe. I want to see him run around and jump, But no, he played this sad character. You talk about pathos. His last line in the intertitle was, "Nobody loves a fat man." Yeah.
So
Anyway.
how's he rank? In your
I have to say, Roscoe never got his due. He taught Keaton. There would be no Keaton without Roscoe.
That's true.
And although I think he was somewhat a bit crass, shall we say, he could be very funny and very graceful, and he was a very good director. So yeah, I don't place him up there with Chaplin or Keaton, but he's definitely one of the guys up there, like with Charlie Chase, that level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think had the scandal and everything not occurred, he might have had a lengthier career, or was he kind of on the downswing?
No, he was on the upswing.
Oh,
he had just signed $1 million contract with Paramount and was making feature films. He was big, figuratively and literally.
Okay.
Kamden.
Kamden.
Kamden's doing Stan Laurel.
I've not seen many Fatty Arbuckle films, so I'm not going to choose a worst.
That's fine. Of the ones you've seen, is it memorable? Which one?
The Garbage Man.
Oh, okay. I think I remember that.
The Garbage Man?
Yeah.
Is that the title?
Trashy film. Pure rubbish. I don't remember that one. But see Fatty and Mabel Adrift. You'll like it, Kim.
Okay.
I know I've seen that one, but I haven't seen enough. I think Kino put out some decent collections a long time ago, it seems like now, and it's like I wish they reissue these things to like Blu-ray or whatever, and I think they take their sweet time. I'll be 100 by the time this stuff ever comes out again or something. But
that should be in a couple of weeks now.
And it was,
Kamden,
it was never cheap to begin with. I mean, it's like, so it's like, these things are 100 years old. It's like nobody cares that much except us. So it's like,
they'll cater to us.
Put them out for $10 a piece, just like to make Kamden squirm. The latest Adam Sandler collection. So, anyway. Anyway,
I'm sorry. I dislike Adam Sandler.
I do too. But anyway, I had to say that because we were talking beforehand about And we're not going to talk about him today, other than making fun of him.
Oh, okay.
He's not in the book. He's not in the book. This only goes.
No,
up to
he's not in the book.
He only
That's
goes
an
up
old
to
book. That is an old book.
It is from 1978, and this is the
Wow.
revised version from 1982. So, but he didn't
Yeah.
add anybody to it. You know, it's. I think.
No, he didn't.
You know,
No,
the
he
only
didn't.
thing he did was, you know, I think he might have updated one of the last people in here, but you know, and then put some death dates. And I think that's about it.
Right. Death dates and
Yeah.
added material, added projects.
Right.
You know, that he didn't have in the other ones.
So Fatty for me is kind of, or Roscoe
Aw.
P. Coltrane. Anyway, it's kind of an odd bird for me, I guess, for lack of a better term, because I don't know what to say about it. I've seen a few films. The one I actually seem to remember, and I don't remember the title, that I really liked, had Buster Keaton in it, but he
Mhm.
might have been in a lot of his films. But
Well, they were. He
but
was.
Buster wasn't a main character. He's very minor in it. It was really, you know,
But he eventually became a partner. He eventually became
right. So
equal with them.
if that helps, but you know, I'd have to look at the titles here. So you know, I'm really
No, I
bad on
get
my,
you.
I'm
I
really
get you.
bad on my silent films. You know, it's like besides
Yeah.
the three in the behind me, that's like the ones I can do. You know,
I
really
find
well.
them difficult to hear.
What you find that? Hey, we're
Don't
not
mind me.
we're not to them yet.
I'm,
Okay,
Kamden,
anyway.
I'm surprised you could.
You said the three behind the silent films
Oh,
are.
okay, yeah, okay, fine, yes.
I'm surprised you could
Laurel and
lift
Hardy
that
did a
book.
number of silent films. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
surprised you
this is, by the way, Nick, this is the very first thing I bought with my first paycheck.
Wow!
A
Congratulations.
signed copy of Randy's book. The very first thing I ever bought. I waited to give us $90 to buy a hardback version. Thank you,
donated.
Randy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Randy.
Did he write you? Did he
I
write?
use it to work out.
Yeah,
Did
it's
he personalize it, or did he just say?
yeah, he signed it for me.
Yeah. I have a funny story about that.
Ew.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I used to tease him because he would do the Kickstarter thing, you know, and you pre-ordered it, right?
Yeah.
So I kept telling it, because I pre-ordered it, I kept telling him that I was happy to donate. And I would use the word donate, and it would irk him. And he would write back, "This isn't a donation, you're buying the book." And I'm like, "Well, don't worry about it, and please accept my donation." And it just drove him crazy. So then I got my book, and of course it says, "Thank you, Nick, for donating." For the so Randy actually topped me.
That's funny.
It is funny. He's so great. We're so lucky to have him. Seriously.
All right. We will get to Laurel and Hardy again, and I do have a couple books because I pulled them out just because I was showing something to Kamden. The next one is behind me. Okay, who am I going to pick? Who am I going to pick? It is Buster Keaton. Okay, are you going to call him? What was Buster Keaton's first name? I can't even remember.
Joseph.
Joseph, thank you. I can't
Joseph
remember.
Francis Keaton.
Thank you.
So he's next. He's the next one.
He's the next one in the book.
Okay, brilliant, genius, a guy who not learned how to perform the first part of his life. The second part of his life, he learned from Roscoe how to make films, and then he brought that both of those things, blended them together, and became this incredible director. Funny. His acting ability is just it's modern. It's like it doesn't date, you know.
Mhm.
Sometimes even Chaplin can get a little too flowery. Buster is just incredible. Depth wise, no, I don't think his material is as good as Chaplin's or as deep, let's put it that way. I think there's more layers to Chaplin. But as far as my favorite Keaton, it would have to be The Navigator, is the one that makes me laugh the most. And I think it's a brilliant film. It's beautifully put together. Second would be The General, of course, which is just a gorgeous, gorgeous film. My least favorite Keaton film, I mean, there's a lot of crap he made later on. I'm sorry. The one thing about Keaton, when people like compare Keaton to Chaplin, I always say, well, at least Chaplin didn't have to make beach party movies, you know. But that has nothing to do with his talent. It had everything to do with lack of business acumen. But my least favorite Keaton movie, I guess it would be God's Country.
I don't even know if I've seen that one.
It was filmed in Cinecolor by the Screen Actors
Oh, there it
Guild.
is. It's on here.
Yeah.
It's a miscellaneous film appearance from 1946.
Yes. And it's a slog, fellas.
Ooh, I have not seen that one. And I've
Oh,
seen a
and
lot of
don't,
his
don't
films,
even
so-
bother.
Okay.
Don't bother.
All right. I'll trust you.
Yeah.
Well,
don't bother.
I hate giving worse. I'm not really good at this, so I'm going to skip over worst again. I'm going to tell you two, and I'm going to tell you why the general.
Yeah, you don't have to say worse if you don't want to. That's fine.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Yeah.
I'm going to say my favorite is the general, and here is the other reason why.
That's cool.
So I told you I was with snot-nosed brats with modern times. Well, move along to college. The only film they showed in an auditorium, which finally it was quiet because I was one of the only people who showed up for class, was the general. And it's almost like rewatching it again if you see it on a large screen. It's like one of those movies. There's a lot of, I think there are not, I'm the one that disagrees that not every movie is different if you see it on the screen, but the general is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Even without an
agree.
audience, it's still one of them.
Yeah, I agree. It's an epic. It's an epic film.
Mm-hmm. And that's it? Anything else? So how's he rank?
We've
How's he
reached an
rank?
impasse. We've reached an impasse.
I'm going to have to say my favorite silent comedian is Laurel and Hardy.
Okay.
But I have to say that I think Keaton is easily my second one. I'm sorry, I like Chaplin, but I just like Keaton a little bit more.
You don't have to apologize. This is what makes up the world.
Yeah.
You know?
No. Yeah. I mean, I'm just always curious because, you always hear like the professionals talk about things, and sometimes, it's not always the one, and that's why I was kind of curious. It's like I'm sure Nick has ones that are like his favorites that nobody else likes or something, and it's like, and we'll get to some too, but which
Art is subjective.
which is the Buster Keaton? I'm terrible on titles. I'm terrible on names. Camden knows
Go ahead,
this.
Mark. I'll help.
Okay, the one where he's standing outside and the wall falls down. Which one is?
Steamboat Bill Jr.
Okay, that one or the Cameraman are probably my favorites. General's up there too. General's
Two
up there,
great ones.
but I think it's Steamboat Bill Jr. is my favorite.
I
And
love that one.
it's mainly for that one scene, but I just love that film. But I also like College a lot. I mean, it's hard to pick.
Mhm.
I'm going to go venture further that I finally seen all the sound ones that were done at MGM that everybody said, oh, terrible.
Mhm.
But there is something to be said about, which one is it? I think it's Free and Easy, I think.
Oh God. No, sorry.
Is that a good one?
I was recoil when I heard that title.
Oh, okay. Oh, you don't like that one?
Oh,
Yeah. But no, people are weird about it. I have a fondness for What No Beer, believe it or not. But
I do
think
too.
And I
do
think it's
too.
just because, I've heard so many terrible things about these Keaton films that I didn't want to see them. And so I didn't see him until Warner Archives put out, and I could get him 4 for $40 when they did those cheap deals. And so I said,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
It's Keaton. I'll watch them. And I go, these aren't bad. I could see why they're considered bad if you've seen the earlier stuff, and we'll get to that when we talk to like Laurel and Hardy. But
really.
It's like if you never saw a silent Keaton, there's some good sound ones. I would say probably the worst Keaton one ever is probably like Sergeant Deadhead of the ones that I've seen, but then that's like a pizza party film too.
That was the first Keaton I ever saw.
Really?
When I was a child, I was taken to the theater. There was this old guy doing these flip-flops. I had no idea who he was, but that was my first exposure to him. I was going to say the talkies, of all of them, the ones that I find difficult are Free and Easy. Definitely, it's horrible. It's just horrible. It's so misguided. It's so not Keaton.
And maybe that's why I like it. I don't know. It's
maybe it's
it surprised me, and it's like, okay.
I mean, Chaplin did the same thing with like The Great Dictator with all the silent films, and then it's like this film is like entirely different.
It's kind of jarring, yeah. When you
or like Jack Benny even did with like when he did To Be or Not to Be. It's an entirely different Jack Benny.
Yeah,
completely, yeah. Other than the vanity. to the character.
Strangely enough, Jack Benny's not in this Maltin book, which always kind of annoyed me. But
but Jack Benny wasn't really known as a film comedian. This is a book about movie comedians.
True, but Jack Benny did as many films as the Marx Brothers. That's the funny thing.
Well, you know what? My Aunt Susie did as many movies as the Marx Brothers. That's not saying much. But that is considered.
You want to see my home movies? There's Aunt Susie again. And now with
I have a good Jack Benny story.
Now with these newfangled things, she can be on video every night.
Every single night. Take that up with my uncle. But but I agree with you about the Keaton talkies. Most of them I like. Most of them I really like What No Beer, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I also like what you call it. What's the one? Speak Easily is a fun movie. A lot of fun. Passion Plumber has some good stuff. What's the one filmed at his house? Parlor, Bedroom, and Bath. I really like. I think it's a very funny movie. So I think they have a bad reputation, but again, it's because it's compared to his earlier stuff where he had control.
Yeah. You know what shorts I actually like too a lot are the Columbia ones. The Columbia ones. I actually like the Columbia ones.
I like a lot of them.
Really. I mean, they're very Stooge-like. That might be why, because of Jules White. But I said these aren't bad.
They're fun. They're fun. They're like hybrids. But I prefer Charlie Chase's Columbias to his Hal Roach talkies.
Well, we'll get to Chase soon. Okay.
We'll cut to the Chase.
Just come with the Hal Roach talkies, not the Hal Roach silence, right?
The what?
We're talking both.
We're talking. Charlie Chase, or who are we talking about?
Charlie Chase.
Yeah, we're going to talk about both.
Okay.
If your favorite Charlie Chase is Sons of the Desert, it'll count. I don't care. Anyway,
that's a dog.
So the next one is this gentleman, Harold Lloyd.
Mr. Lloyd.
Push him off. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Nick.
I think Harold Lloyd was a wonderful, funny actor. He didn't come from the stage. He didn't come from vaudeville or music hall like Keaton or Chaplin or most of the great comedians. Hal Roach said that he was the greatest actor who acted like a comedian that he ever knew. So that kind of puts him immediately for me to number 3. He was basically a great producer. He hired really good directors. He hired the best writers. He was involved in every aspect. I mean, other than later on with music and stuff like that, like Chaplin did. But he was, I think, a wonderful filmmaker, and his films work beautifully in a theater today. And so I have to say that, he was just, again, number 3 of the top silent comedians. And my favorite Harold Lloyd, I think, is, I don't know. You know what? I like a few of the talkies.
That's fine.
So I'm going to give you a silent and a talkie. So the silent, I really, really like Speedy. And as far as the talkies, I would say there's a movie called The Cat's Paw.
I don't know if I've seen that one. It
says very unusual.
1934. Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
It's like his Frank Capra movie. It's quite different, quite interesting. Movie Crazy is good too. I just don't like the finale. There's something about Lloyd that's sadistic, almost. I'm serious. When he goes after the villains at the end, you wince. It really hurts.
Yeah, that's true.
And I want a fake vase broken over their head or something like that. He's like vicious.
Columbia Picture sound effects, huh?
Or that to help soften it, Keaton does it too in Battling Butler. That whole finale is kind of like, all right, enough. I just don't know. I'm not a violent person, so I don't really get into it. But Lloyd, a wonderful, wonderful comedian. My least favorite Lloyd, did I say what it was?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Probably Sin of Harold Dodelbach.
I would no. That's a good movie up until the last
like too. It's not my favorite, but anyway.
No, yeah, me too. I think I guess. Oh, okay. It would have to be Welcome Danger. His first talkie is just a mess. It's a solid mess, and it goes on for.
I think I've seen it before. Yeah.
Yeah. You talk about funny sound effects. I never saw a movie where more people get hit on the head and knocked unconscious, like with metal things and blunt instruments. And I mean, not played for funny.
Do you know what I hate though? When you're
What was
watching, you know what I hate though about silent movies and sound effects? People are doing this to Laurel and Hardy film silence online. They're adding their own additional sound effects, and you know what they're doing? They're like using electronic sound effects.
Oh yeah, I don't care for
Takes
that.
you right out of it. Takes you right out of it.
I one time saw a Laurel and Hardy film with electric music in the background, like like not electric music, but like heavy metal music in the background. I'm like, is this necessary for this? Because then you just hear like a guitar string, and then like they added, and I'm like watching, and then randomly, it was the one with the horse on the
Wrong again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it was like
That little Frank
randomly
Morgan
they would
laugh.
add voices, and it was not like one of those things that they did later.
Yeah.
Where they put in like additional voices, like Chuck McCann, I think, did it.
Yeah, he did it for for
It's
Double
like
Whooper.
some guy doing an impression, and I'm like watching the middle of it, and then the middle of this guy pops up doing a horrible impression. I'm like, he sounds like he's in a Dick Van Dyke British accent.
Yeah, it's pretty awful.
It almost sounds like it's Dick Van Dyke and like W.C. Fields.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It's the weird, and I'm like, this is
I do
so
know
bad.
that Peter Sellers did a few of those dubbing the Laurel and Hardy voices.
Yeah.
That's
By the way,
pretty
so
lame.
we're probably never gonna get to W.C. Fields for this. Here's the thing about W.C. Fields, though. I work in a library, and I told my boss this: we have to stop making books on Winston Churchill where he looks like W.C. Fields on the cover. I swear to God, it's a real thing. He's got the red nose, he's got everything, and I'm like, this guy looks like W.C. Fields. He does not look like Winston Churchill.
I didn't know there's a big group, big amount of Winston Churchill books out there.
Yeah, really.
There's a lot. It's just, this woman checked out every juvenile fiction book in the entire library system about Winston Churchill, and it's like
book report.
And it's like, no, she's like, and I'm like, why is there 15? Why is this cart full of books on Winston Churchill? And then I look at the first cover, and then one of them looks like W.C. Fields, and then the second one looks really like W.C. Fields.
It's your favorite comedian. Come on.
Yeah, and he's mixed with her favorite politician, with her favorite prime minister.
Win with Winnie. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for like McCarthy to start mocking him.
My little chickadee. Yeah.
Totally an aside. I was like the 2,000-Year-Old Man album where they're talking about Winston Churchill, and he says they could have won sooner if he didn't call them Nazis. They were Nazis. Mel Brooks is great. He's not in the book either, but we could talk about him anyway. But Kamden, any more comments about Harold Lloyd, or did you have any?
Safety Last.
Safety Last. Cool.
Safety Last is another one of those films you have to see it in the biggest TV screen possible.
Or in the theater.
Or in a theater.
Yeah.
If you can.
Like,
last time I saw it,
I know people who watch all of their films from film class and on their cell phone, and I'm like, no,
I can't do it. Can't do it.
Okay, somebody watch The General, by the way, on their cell phone, by the way.
The General.
Yeah, they watch The General before class on their cell phone. I'm like, no.
You probably only see one train car. But my wife and I just saw in January, we saw Safety Last at a music hall in London, built in 1847, and it was packed house, big screen, Safety Last. It was great.
Cool.
I have a question. Why is it that American comedians and just same thing with anything, American movies, cartoon characters, comedians, they always seem to fit better in other countries than we do accept other comedians and stuff from other nations?
Rephrase that.
Meaning, like, think about it. Laurel and Hardy, which I know somebody I've read, they call them a British comedian. They're from the United States. They're British comedian. They're American comedians. You know, they translated well in almost, you know, tons of countries. We were talking about beforehand about Laurel and Hardy being named various names like fat and skinny in other countries, right?
Dick und Dorf.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think one of them he's called Laurel and Tubby or something.
Whatever.
Yeah, and
But
it's like,
Dinkendorf, I remember that. Yeah.
but I mean,
Dorf. Yeah.
or Chaplin, or you know, or today you could say, you know, Bugs Bunny, or you know, Bogart, or anything. You always see someone they make the. But for us, anything, especially back then more than now, foreign films just don't resonate. Anything with
I get you. So you're saying that, like, let's say when I was in Mexico City, right?
Yeah.
You would walk into any video store and there would be Laurel and Hardy,
right.
right? They would get it. They knew them. They were celebrities, you know, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. And it doesn't happen for the most part with foreign stars in our country,
Right.
right? The truth of the matter is, and I hate to say this, but, and the British will tell you this, American product is just better.
That's
It's-
true.
It's always been better. It's always been better made. It's always been more expensive. It's always been flashier, you know, and most popular, actually.
Yeah.
So I think that has a lot to do with it.
I have
really
a theory. I have a theory too to piggyback on that.
Ooh.
I think that the rest of the world tends to embrace comedy better than the United States does.
That's an interesting theory.
And
I agree with that. Remember,
and
we talked about
especially
Adam Sandler being successful.
as time has gone on, it's gotten worse, you know, and it's like, so you see, and we talked about this, Nick, last time, is, you know, there's a big Phil Silvers, Sergeant Bilko following in England. Why would
In
there
England.
be? Who cares? It's a New Yorker guy, you know, it's like, you know, on a US military base. It has
Mhm.
nothing to do with anything there, but hey, it's the funniest thing ever, you know, and
They
it
love
can't
it.
just be because he appeared in one Carry On film. It's just that I think they embrace comedy and love comedy so much that they
Mhm.
obsess about it, that we're just like kind of like, you know, and you
Yeah,
know, unless
yeah.
we're people like us, kind of weirdos, freaks.
Freak. Yeah.
You know, it's like half the people, if somebody was watching this, except for maybe Chaplin, they probably wouldn't have heard anybody that we've talked about so far, except for
Maybe.
Laurel and
Yeah.
Hardy, you know, maybe, but we
Yeah.
haven't really talked about them yet. So
Not yet.
But
Not yet.
now, Mark, just imagine yourself as a member of Gen Z.
Jen.
Yeah. Now
Gen Z
think about being a film buff as a member of Gen Z. Think about how hard I have it compared to you.
Isn't that some anime character, Gen Z? Or something.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's actually a prescription vitamin I'm taking.
Dragon
But
Ball Z.
no, I get you, Kamden. I get you. I feel you on that one.
Yeah.
I feel like I always say this, and no offense to you, Kamden, but I always say that my generation is the last generation to really give a shit. You know what I mean? About this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's fading rapidly, and the ranks are thinning every
Right.
year.
The only thing that my generation knows about is a lot of them. I would say a majority of them. In fact, I would say almost all of them knows the cartoons part.
Right.
But I think
And
that's
the Three Stooges. And the Three Stooges.
And the Three Stooges as well. And I think that's partially because basically, when was the last time Laurel and Hardy were on cable TV that freely would have been available?
And who would watch it?
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's the main point, you know. Our movies, and I say our movies because really that's what we're into, have been relegated to one station, to one channel now.
Yeah.
Now it's a one-stop place to go for the stuff we love, and in a way that's very sad to me. You know, it's kind of sad.
I think the other thing is Hollywood's responsible for this because Hollywood believes this for some reason, is that anything old can be discarded.
Well, yeah. I mean,
or remade.
Or
it's like
everything's been remade since ancient Greece.
Yeah, it's like you know, when they colorized the Dick Van Dyke shows.
Right.
People I know were like, "Oh, that was so cool," but I'm like, Yeah, but they didn't. I'm like, it is cool. They look nice. They look much better than like the Three Stooges look colorized, or most of the Laurel and Hardy films look colorized. But I
The
mean,
new technology is almost flawless. I hate to
right.
say
But
it, but
here's the problem: did we really need it though? If they look nice, I'm
Some
not wrong,
people,
but you don't
for
need
some
it.
people, yes, yeah. Unfortunately, for some people,
well, the
they
bottom
can't watch a
line,
black and white thing to save their life. So
Camden and Mark, I read something years ago, and this was years ago. They did a poll of young people, and young people said that when they have the remote and they're changing, uh, as soon as they get to something in black and white, they change it immediately. They don't even wait to see what it is.
Yep.
They don't want to watch black and white. Now, here's my theory about that, and it's kind of obvious. When you have 5,000 choices of, high definition CGI, blah, 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 you're not going to go to a scratchy old film and watch Will Rogers talk to Step and Fetch It. It's just not going to happen. So we are the last, really the last of them. And I hate to say it, I hate to be the harbinger of doom, but let's enjoy it while we can.
What's unfortunate though is that the people who are into the same stuff we are, like one of the person I was going to invite with you, Mark, that he decided not to come because he was busy. He's younger than I am. He's only like 18.
Wow, who's that?
His name is Strum.
Strum Thurmond?
Yeah, Strum Thurmond, the youngest senator. No, Strum Pat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually am going to have him on the show, I think next Friday. So
yeah.
So
Yeah,
I am getting him. He just couldn't make it.
He and I can both talk to you about why it's tough being a Gen Zer, and
Gen Z?
especially for him, even more than so than me, even.
Yeah.
Because he's stuck in the world where he's not only that, but he's like, he doesn't. I know a few people but the people who are into the same stuff we are, there's like 5 of them, and they're all Facebook friends with you, probably.
And they're all dead. But yeah, the bottom line is that the ranks are thinning, and this stuff is becoming less and less important in general. And if you go to the major cities where these things were produced and where these people lived and played, if the second, let's say there's a studio on a corner in Los Angeles, the second somebody gets an offer for really big money to build apartments or whatever it is, those things are gone without a second thought.
Yeah.
It's just
they just tore down. They just tore down a few
disposable.
months ago. I hate to interrupt you, but I was just going to say this to you guys because I told Mark Kausler this when he was on our show. The show was good. They just tore down the Disney studio in Kansas City that they filmed down. They just tore it down.
They tore it down. Yeah, one of the most historical things in modern day entertainment. They tore down.
But yeah, what my thing was with black and white, just comedians in general, is I generally graduated into it because, like a lot of people who were interested, they started with cartoons and the Three Stooges, and they just gradually into it. I was the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because when I was little and I watched your show, I always thought that Laurel and Hardy when I was little were kind of slow. So I just didn't pay attention to them. I mean, they're really slow now with fast-paced movies you grew up on as well. So, but then like Abbott and Costello, I never got when I was little. It took me a little while, right?
Yeah.
It's like I also never got Rocky and Bullwinkle. It went right over my head. I still liked it, but
yeah, I get you.
It wasn't until probably when I was about 13, 14, 12 maybe, that I started getting into everything else.
Wow. Okay. I find that most people do. I find when I talk to people, fellow fans and all that stuff, it's usually around that mid-teen area that they're exposed to this stuff for the first time. I was like 5. I started really, really young. So by the time my friends were picking it up at 13 and 14, I could have written a book about it. You know what I mean?
I was pretty young. I was pretty young too, because my dad wasn't one of these dads like, there's some dads, I'm going to educate my kid on old comedy. He was never like that. He just watched what he liked, and it was whatever was on. And he didn't try to say this is good, this is bad, unless I asked him about it. If I said, like when did they play Harold Lloyd? It was on PBS in the late 70s.
Yeah, I remember.
And that was the first time I saw him. And I asked my dad, "Who's this Harold
Uh-huh.
Lloyd person? Is he funny?" And my dad says, "Yeah, he's really funny. You should watch him." And I go, "Okay," but he never said, "You should sit down and watch this stuff, kid. This
Right.
stuff's funny." Because I think had he done that, I probably would have said, I don't
Yeah.
know. I
Now,
probably
I
still
have to
watch
say
it.
one thing though about being a film person.
Mm-hmm.
You're also more accepted because back then, like, if you were watching a Warner Brothers cartoon in 1970 something, that was probably a big no if you're 17 years old, right? In high
I didn't
school.
care. I didn't care.
I didn't care either.
Yeah, I just watched
But-
them anyway. But I didn't talk to my friends about it. I figured they were into
no one-
other things, and I was just like,
no
yeah,
one-
whatever.
We
No
did.
one cares if you're into film.
Yeah.
People are just more accepting now.
Yeah.
Of course,
Mhm.
I went to private school, so it might be different, but
Yeah, maybe. My friends and I talked about cartoons. We did the voices. We
Yeah.
did the gags.
But
We
but
loved
by 17, didn't your friends kind of grow out of it? Mine did, and I kept
Oh,
doing it.
yeah. I can't say we
See,
sat around
it's like
watching
we talk about
cartoons.
cartoons when we were like 8, 9, 10. A few went into like 12, 13, 14. Then they all discovered girls. Well, I discovered girls too, but I still like to watch cartoons. I said, why do
So
I
did
put
I.
cartoons away? They're still
And I
on.
especially,
I'm
and I
not with a girl
especially,
this
li-
Saturday
and I
morning. I don't
especially,
watch
and I
cartoons.
especially, and I especially like girls who like cartoons. So
Yeah.
I tried to get that in. I'm sorry, but
I thought you were doing your Porky Pig impersonation.
Speaking of, yeah, no, but let's listen to each other, guys. Let's listen to each other because people have to listen to us. What was I saying? Oh, cartoons. Yeah, I was also a student of animation, so I would read materials and the cartoon. They had different phases in my life. At first, it was goofy fun, not Goofy the cartoon character, but it was goofy fun. And then it was more like I really enjoyed the references, the music, and all that other stuff. And then as I got more into the technical aspect, it was like reading those great books by Leonard Maltin of Mice and Magic and all
that
that
was
stuff.
me too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mr. Maltin. He's remarkable, man.
Mr. Maltin made me I wasn't never a big Disney fan growing up as much as I am now.
Yeah.
I just never. I know I was always for the gag kind of thing, right? Yeah, but I mean, I was a fan of the shorts, but never the feature. But then I go to the Disney Family Museum, and there's Leonard Maltin standing there, and Leonard Maltin basically goes through the whole exhibit with me, leaving his wife Alice. And I'm like, well, this is like an epiphany moment here.
Come along, kid.
Yeah, right. That's cool, Kamden. That's
my
really
mom and dad are like, who were you talking to? I'm like, oh, Leonard Maltin. They're like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah. Because no one interacted. No one knew that Leonard Maltin. That was Leonard Maltin standing in the museum. So I'm like, well, no one else wants to talk to him. I will.
I might as well. Where was this? Where is this museum?
The Walt Disney Family Museum, the one in San Francisco.
Oh, in San Francisco.
He just happened to be there. He wasn't a special guest or anything.
He just happened to be there at this 9 Old Men exhibit. And he just walked me with the whole exhibit. I was walking with him. He said, he says, I met Ward Kimball. He said this, right? He was like quoting something he said. And I'm like,
heck, I'd follow him too. I love Leonard.
I'm like, and pardon my language, Mark, but I'm like, this place is like fucking amazing. Like,
yeah, that's amazing. That is. If you're going to go through a Disney museum, he's like the ultimate Disney fan.
I'm like, this is like the ultimate tour right here. And no one, his wife is not even with him right now.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. Oh, man. Anyway, so where were we?
I am supposed to say something about Harold Lloyd, and then we're going to continue on. This is going to be like a 12-hour show if we keep going at this rate, but that's okay.
Cut it into different shows.
Yes, I can.
So what do you think?
I don't know. I don't remember many of his shorts, even though I've seen some of them. And it's like I had to kind of re-educate myself because I did see that Harold Lloyd thing, in the late 70s, but then it went away. And then they put a few out on tape, but Harold Lloyd's estate and Harold Lloyd himself was always very possessive over his own films. So, like even now with Criterion, I want them to put Grandma's Boy out on Criterion, and it's not. And I know that's a good film, but I haven't seen it in 20-something years. So I think it's good, but of the ones I've seen that are on Criterion that I've seen in recent times, I agree with you. I think Speedy is his best film.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, and of least, I don't know. I mean, it's like you could probably go back to like the early ones before he developed the character with glasses and everything, because they're kind of nondescript. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
want to really poo-poo the sin of Harold Diddlebach, even though I just did just in jest. I mean, but there's moments in the sound ones and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
I even
Harold
like
was an
Professor
interesting
Beware.
person as he went on too, doing this 3D stuff, and I have that 3D book and stuff like that. So it's like, yeah.
Hmm.
So
Interesting man. Interesting man.
I wish I had money.
They say of all the performers, he probably has the most illegitimate children. Seriously.
probably.
That's what they
Okay,
say.
next one is some that someone
Camden, I
I'm not.
interrupted you. What were you going to say?
I said I wish I had money. I can buy all these things.
I'll try not to interrupt, but yeah. Anyway, it happens on this show when you have more than two people. Let's see. Okay, next one, Harry Langdon, and I will admit I'm going to kind of pass on this one because I don't.
Me too.
I shouldn't say I don't care for Harry Langdon. I just don't know enough about him. But I'll leave it to you two, or at least Nick, if even. So go ahead.
There's something inside me that loves Harry Langdon. His best film, I think, is probably The Strong Man, directed by Capra. And his worst film would be Difficult, because again, like Keaton, he made some real crap towards the end. And I'll tell you, his Columbia's, especially the later ones, where they teamed him with a Swedish comedian, a Swedish dialect comedian by the name of L. Brendel, and it was one of Jules White's, master strokes of complete ineptitude. But I would say that I'll name one: Pistol Packin' Nitwits, which was Harry's last Columbia film, is pretty difficult to get through. He's an acquired taste. I always say that he had the patent on quirk. He was very quirky, very dark. He was darker than any of the other comedians. He was the most courageous that way. He wasn't afraid to go there. He got a really raw deal from Capra. What happened there for real was Langdon fired Capra, and Capra, feeling very humiliated by this and knowing that it could hurt his career, went to the press first and told his story, and that's the one that stuck. I don't know if you know about all that. It's a very big thing with film comedy buffs. Capra talked about how Harry Langdon didn't know what his character was until they wrote it for him, when in fact he'd been playing this character in vaudeville for 25 years. But he was a fine comedian. I just thought he was quirky and wonderful, and on the scale of the silent movie comedians, number 4.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Camden, any thoughts one way or the other? Okay.
Okay.
You must have the Bill Shelley book, I guess, right? Okay. So Bill Shelley, of course, he's passed away, unfortunately, but I managed to interview
I hear he
him.
died as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I managed to interview him before he died.
No, but that's always better.
Yeah.
I find it's more lively.
I tried to
Definitely
cover
more
his,
lively.
I tried to cover his entire career, but we were talking about the Warren magazine book that he did, but because that was his current book. But I had to ask him about Harry Langdon, and he, I have to re-listen to the episodes in the archives. I think it's episode 29. It shows you how long ago it was. And why he liked Harry Langdon, and he just adored him. He thought it was the best thing ever. And it's like, I didn't argue with him, because it's like everything I've seen just kind of struck me as kind of average. It's like it wasn't bad, it wasn't good, it was just kind of there. And so I hate to say I don't have much of an opinion, but it's like I always want to readdress it, but like so many other comedians, his stuff's not very accessible.
That's what people, I think. Just wanted to say something. So when people go to college, when they're forced to watch films, they watch them. But now once you're a film student and you're willing to take the class and you're majoring in film, if you're going through the ambition to major in film at a school that doesn't really major and it doesn't really have a film major as much, you have a lot of ambition. So people watch the films and they do watch them. But there's some reason for it, with a few exceptions. I do know a few people my age that will watch it and enjoy them. They're not like avid fans of silent film like I am, but they watch them and enjoy them. It's blank. They don't really want to sit down and embrace it. They're watching it on their phones, which I do not get. I do not get the appeal of watching something on your phone. I know that somebody I know watched the entire Gone with the Wind on their phone.
Unbelievable. It's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
I don't
Those
understand
fighting
it.
scenes. Those incredible scenes.
Frankly, Scarlett, I crush your head.
Oh, yeah.
I crush your head, Scarlett.
But I'm like, this is not the way to watch it.
No.
To them, it is. There you go.
But if they watch it right before
Hey, but
class, with the night
I'm
paying
amazed. Hey,
attention to it.
I am going to interrupt. I'm amazed they're actually watching it. Hey, so many people
No,
are like,
they're
I'm not
watching
even
it
watch.
right before class.
Oh,
which-
well, then that's stupid. Why are you even in film school? It's like,
Are you
anyway.
even
Now,
in school?
some are the different. They watch it at night. And then I know a couple of people who are just avid film buffs. They're not really just old film buffs. They're more of like modern film buffs, but they still like it to where they're going to go out and this is really interesting. Because they wanted to make sure movies we see, we actually have to get a DVD Netflix account to watch it. We don't have to get streaming. We have to get a Netflix DVD account today. So people, when they're watching it, I know a couple of people who actually listen to the audio commentaries like I do when they watch a movie. Even for something that they might not enjoy, right? They just do it. That's just what they want to do. So they're
Mhm.
embracing, they're watching it, and then they rewatch it again, like I do.
Right. Yeah.
Post thoughts video, right?
Yeah. I enjoy commentaries too. In fact, some DVDs I get for the commentaries.
Yeah.
Me too.
It's like
Especially
reading a
if I've seen
book.
Especially if
do.
I've seen the film a zillion times, I will
Yeah.
just watch it with the commentary.
Yeah.
Like I think I got Fast Times at Ridgemont High, the Criterion version.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately had the commentary on because I've seen it so many times. I don't really care, but I want to know what
Yeah.
they say about it. So.
It's like reading a book about the movie. I like it.
Okay,
fun.
next on the list, Charlie Chase.
Oh, okay. That's an
Can I go
interesting
first for this one?
Sure.
Sure, you can. Okay, that's enough. I feel that. No, I'm kidding, Kev. Sorry.
I love, and I'm gonna pull this book out again
Uh-oh.
because once you read this book,
Pulling it out.
I know.
once
That's what I
you
was
read
thinking.
this book, I am
Mine-
like, I cannot put
mine's-
this book down.
What's wrong with
I
it?
absolutely cannot put this book down.
Mine's smaller.
Mine's
Oh, don't be
not.
self-conscious.
Yeah. I cannot put this book down, and every time I'm watching it, I'm actually not only just rewatching the Laurel and Hardy stuff. Whenever they mention an Howard Gang short, I'm rewatching that too. Where I mention,
Wow.
so I'm rewatching Hard Knocks, and I don't know why. I think I like that one my favorite. That silent,
Yeah.
the Hard Knocks silent.
Yeah.
I think that one might be my favorite Charlie Chase, just because I don't know.
That's
it's
a
just
good
really-
one.
Yeah.
What do you think, Umbriago? Oh, he agrees with you. He thinks that's a good one.
Yeah. But yeah, I love Randy's book.
Randy's
I
book
wish
is
Randy would
great.
answer my email and acknowledge my note to him that I loved his
Hey,
book.
Randy, come
He
on the
never
show.
responded.
Hey, Randy, come on, man.
Randy, come
Randy.
on the show. Come on, man. Come on.
Come on the show. We love you.
All right.
Randy's a
Charlie
good dude. What's your least favorite Charlie Chase?
Again, I gotta skip least favorites because I know there's not a big basher. Now, when we get to Laurel and Hardy, I'll have a least favorite, but
Okay. All
and
right.
definitely when we get to the Three Stooges.
Oh, God, yeah.
Okay, good. All right.
Okay. Who's next?
Well, you are
Oh,
for Charlie Chase. If you
For
have
Charlie
something.
Chase.
Yeah.
I wrote an article about Charlie Chase that was published a while ago, and it was called "The Strange Case of Charlie Chase." And I really did you see that?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. And
Haven't.
I stand by it. What's that, Camden?
I haven't, but I'd like to.
Oh, great. It's in a publication called Pop 20. They're for sale on Amazon. That's really the only place I know where you can get them. I'm not even sure if I have one. But basically what it talks about is that Charlie Chase isn't remembered for a good reason. He never took hold of one basic character. He played different characters in different films, and to tell you the truth, some of them worked, some of them didn't. I think he was a better silent movie comedian than he was sound. I think his talkies for Roach are one good one to two bad, one good, two bad. Very hit and miss. I think his legacy as a film director and creator is definitely worthwhile and definitely belongs. But as a comedian himself, I find him very mild. He could make me laugh till I cry in some situations. But for the most part, I always look at him as sort of second tier comedy. I think Hal Roach product is very overrated, to be honest with you. If he didn't have Laurel and Hardy and our gang, he wouldn't be remembered at all. Maybe Harold Lloyd, who left eventually. Yeah, so Charlie Chase, yeah, good second level, second tier comedian. I guess my favorite will always be Girl Grief, which is a great two-reeler. And my least favorite, again, I think it would, there's some really bad ones. I really hate the two musical ones that take place during World War One. High Seas and Rough Seas. Boy, rough, tough to get through them. A real slog. But anyway, that's my opinion of Chase. Talented, very talented.
I have a similar opinion to like Harry Langdon, that I don't know enough about him. My dad, using him as an example, always again, said in the 50s.
Well, it's Father's Day tomorrow.
Yeah, happy Father's Day, Daddy. I love you.
There you go.
Anyway, in the 50s, they played Charlie Chase Silence a lot on TV. But
wow.
I wasn't alive in the 50s, so I don't know about this. And it's like, by the time I was around, they never played him. I never knew about him. And in fact, I think I might have seen a couple of the talkies. I know they're on DVD now, but I haven't rushed out to buy them because I'm not one to rush out and buy a collection if I'm going to be disappointed in most of it. So I think I've checked some things out of the library, and I've had that experience where it's very uneven because he's not the same character all the time and stuff like that. And I have to say his best performance probably is in Sons of the Desert, just because it's short and sweet and he's just kind of funny in that sequence.
You get just enough.
If there's a big Charlie Chase fan base out there that's like, that one's not very good, because, well, I'm sorry, I just haven't seen enough to have an educated opinion about it. It's kind of funny, but true. So next on the list is
some people find Larry Seaman funny, and I don't think he's ever made me laugh once.
I'm going to do the next two together because I don't think either of them really are well known. The second one's more well known than the first one. Raymond Griffin, and then Marie Dressler.
Please, Academy Award.
All of them I've never even heard of.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, go ahead, Nick. Say something about it.
Marie Dressler in the early 1930s was before Shirley Temple knocked her off. Was the most popular actor in America. Academy Award winner, Franklin Roosevelt's favorite actress, made some great movies in the 30s, was in the very first comedy feature, Tilly's Punctured Romance, with Charlie Chaplin and Mabel Normand.
I forgot.
A very important woman, a very important actress, and very, 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 very funny. As far as she's concerned, my favorite is Dinner at 8, where she absolutely steals the film, basically. My least favorite, I'm not crazy about Min and Bill. It gets it's got a good reputation, but it's a little too mawkish for me. So that would be my least favorite. But she was amazing. And the other one, Raymond Griffin, was a very, very great comedian. Very subtle. Almost more so than Charlie Chase. He was a normal looking guy who had brilliant gags and didn't resort to a funny costume or goofy, Charlie Chase did goofy stuff too. But Raymond Griffin, if I could compare him to anybody, I guess it would be later on Bob Hope his films. You know, he could still get the girl. He was good looking enough to get the girl and be, you know, suave sometimes, even though he was adult. But Raymond Griffith was quite good. And I would say his greatest film was called Hands Up, which was a classic film. And I haven't seen enough of him really, because a lot doesn't survive to really say what his worst was, but definitely amazing. He lost his voice. It was horrible when talkies were coming around. And what was it? All Quiet on the Western Front. He has an amazing scene in that film as a dying German soldier. No dialogue because he couldn't talk, but it's a really beautiful, poignant scene. It's only like 5 minutes. But then he became a big-time producer at 20th Century Fox. Made some great films, some great musicals and comedies, and was very successful.
Kamden, any
This is
thoughts
like one
on
of my
either?
classes. This is like
One
one of
of
my
them I
classes.
never even heard of, Mark.
Any question?
Okay. Well, Marie Dressler, you might have seen. I think there's a Mickey Mouse cartoon that they do caricatures, and they
Mickey's
do
premiere, Gala premiere. Mhm.
and yeah, they do a caricature of Marie Dressler in it.
No, I never heard of the next one.
Oh, the other one, Raymond Griffin.
Raymond
Yeah,
Griffin.
I've never heard of
yeah.
him.
I had
Yeah.
forgotten he's in the book. I think I've skipped over the chapter or read it a zillion years ago, and I forgot who the heck is it. Is he related to DW in any way or no? Okay. I'll just say my 2 cents. I don't know anything about Raymond Griffith. I'll have to reread the chapter. Marie Dressler, of the films I've seen, which are very few, Dinner at 8 is a good film. So I will give that. And I own
Okay.
that film, in fact. So that helps. If I own a film. Okay,
Yeah.
now what Kamden Spies has been waiting for. And I'll hold up another Laurel and Hardy book. This is a
there we
Laurel
go.
and Hardy book that's also very expensive. And if I can hold it up where it doesn't disappear on me.
The British Tours.
Yeah, this is a hard book to find. And I paid
Yeah.
quite a bit for it. But it's a good book.
This is a hard book to find. You should clean your apartment. Hold on.
Anyway, so it's yours, Laura and Hardy. Who wants to talk? Bowery Boys. They were not talking about that.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. I do have a Bowery Boys book too, actually.
So do I. I have a couple of them.
I'll go.
Okay.
My favorite is Sons of the Desert. That's my favorite film for multiple reasons. Number one, I'm a member, thanks to Rick Green, I became a member of the Sons of the Desert fan club. My family has shrine in their history.
Mhm.
All sorts of Shriner stuff in the family history. All of it. Everywhere.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. That's another reason. And also it's just a really good movie. My least favorite is everyone's least favorite. It's a Tolkien.
Wow, that's not my least favorite.
Really?
Really, I think it has some good moments. I kind of like it. No, Laurel and Hardy. I'm not a fan of their silence. I like 3 of them make me laugh. I think they needed their voices. I really do. Of all the comedians, I think they most benefited from those voices.
Even Battle of the Century?
Battle of the Century is very funny. It's one of my 3 favorites. I mostly love it because Lou Costello's in it.
Yeah.
You know, and I was the first person to notice that.
You were?
Yeah, back in the early 70s. I was looking at a book one night, a Laurel and Hardy
You weren't
book,
credited on the commentary.
and there it was. Huh?
You weren't credited on the audio commentary.
Yeah, I know. Screw them. They don't know anything. So anyway, where was I? Oh, Laurel and Hardy. I love Battle of the Century. I love Liberty, which is more Harold Lloyd
I
material.
just rewatched Liberty today.
Yeah, that's weird. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, I just
Wow.
rewatched Liberty today because I'm actually reading, as I said before, I'm reading and watching, and I'm on the Liberty chapter right now. And I gotta say, I want to see that. I have like a list of films I want to see in the theater. One of them is like I want to see. I don't know why, but I want to see the Chris Flintstones episode in the theater. It doesn't work, but it works for me.
What is it?
I want to see. There's I have a list of films that I want to rent a movie theater and watch them. Liberty is now on that list because that
Oh,
movie
yeah.
would be perfect in a movie theater. Because that's one of the most suspenseful Laurel and Hardy films. And the other film I just got grossed out was when the film where they're next to the sanatorium and they're building a house. When
Mhm.
he eats those nails, and I'm like,
Yeah, some of Laurel and Hardy is a little too sadistic for me.
yeah,
It's funny. I write in my book, I'm talking about people who get down on Abbott and Costello because Bud's always slapping Lou and,
Yeah.
being mean to him and all that stuff. Laurel and Hardy make them look like, fairy tale princesses.
Right.
The vicious comeuppances to Ollie sometimes make me go, ooh.
And the Three Stooges had that problem too, though.
Yeah, but the Three Stooges were a little bit more cartoony.
Yeah.
Laurel and Hardy, you kind of bought into the humanity more. The
Yeah.
Three Stooges were cartoon characters. You could hit them, you could put dynamite down their pants and nothing would happen.
Yeah.
But as their wives. But whatchamacallit, with but with Laurel and Hardy, you kind of bought it. In the music box when Ollie steps on the nail, unnecessary. Stan had a very sadistic sense of humor.
Yeah, that was a little dark, I thought too.
I thought it was a lot dark. So Laurel and Hardy lose points for me. That's why I like Abbott and Costello more. But Laurel and Hardy, the third film, silent film, is their purple moment. I think is their best. The scene where they take the girls out on the town, and the wives have replaced their money with coupons.
Yeah.
And when they discover that, and they look down at the wallet, especially Stan, his take is just, it should have gotten the Academy Award. It's just hilarious. It's just nonstop hilarious.
I think that's the best film for props too, because I think that painting is just the coolest thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Which one is this one?
Their purple moment.
Oh, their purple moment. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. That's a great one. As far as talkies, were you done? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Keep going.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
yeah.
So as far as my favorite Laurel and Hardy is tied, and it's everyone would say the same thing. It's Sons of the Desert and Way Out West. I think those are two their best comedies, just absolutely hilarious. My least favorite Laurel and Hardy film has to be A Haunting We Will Go. It's the Laurel and Hardy movie that Laurel and Hardy have no business being in at all. It's basically a Charlie Chan movie. And I'm just like, it's like some of the gags are great. I think there's a few really great gags, but a couple of great gags do not a great movie make. So I think definitely Haunting We Will Go. I like some of the Fox movies. In fact, I like some of the Fox movies better than some of the Roach movies. I really enjoy The Big Noise. I think it's a really good movie. I really enjoy Jitterbugs. What's it? Oh, and my favorite, and this one I think is better than a lot of the Roach stuff, is The Bullfighters. It's no lovers, no, none of that bullshit. It's just Laurel and Hardy doing some great Laurel and Hardy stuff. So anyway, definitely Haunting We Will Go is the worst.
Yeah, that was one of the things I disliked about Abbott and Costello, but I loved Abbott and Costello, but the whole romance thing.
Yeah.
The one romance thing that actually made me laugh. No, I didn't like, this is one of their worst movies. I didn't like Lost in Alaska as much, but I thought that had a decent romance story to it.
Yeah. Yeah, with Tom Mule and Mitzi Green. Yeah, that was fun. I like the musical number he does with Mitzi Green.
Now, when we get to I know we'll get to Abbott and Costello later, but I think Lost in Alaska looks almost more like you might think it's weird, but it's almost built more like a Broadway show.
Yeah, it looks stagey.
Yeah, it looks really stagey. It looks like, I don't know why, but it's like one of the few Laurel and Hardy films not Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello films that would work good on Broadway.
It actually would. The saloon settings and simple like snowy settings and stuff you could do with backdrops. Definitely, it's very stagey, very, very stagey. Where are we now?
Me. So I just watched Hats Off again for about the 50th. Oh, sorry, I'm joking.
I really am. My print is getting worn out.
Yes. No. I have to separate Laurel and Hardy into separate eras, I guess. So for best and worst kind of. So my favorite silent is the second 100 years where they're in prison. I like that.
That's a good one.
My favorite sounds short subject, which also is my favorite one, period, is County Hospital.
Okay.
I
think the first half is great.
I even have a T-shirt that says "hard boiled eggs and nuts" on it, so it's like, which I should have worn, but I didn't. But my favorite sound one has volleyed around. It was Sons of the Desert. I actually have to say I like Babes in Toyland. It's it's a nice holiday picture. The final scene just cracks me up still over and over. There's just so many good scenes in that, and yeah, I know it's overplayed and blah blah blah. And some people that's the only film of theirs they've ever seen, but I still love it.
That's
And
okay. Why do people apologize for what
I
they
don't
love?
know.
I don't understand.
I know I
I
sound
don't
like
get that.
Camden, don't I? Anyway,
Yeah.
now of the
Roach.
post Roach ones, Sapsits is what I was gonna say. I like the Dancing Masters. I really do. I think that's
I think
great.
it's fun. It's a fun
When
one.
they're on the roller coaster at the end, and I know they redo County Hospital in it, but that's not why I like it. I like the part where they're on the roller coaster. So it's like,
Mhm.
because it's so cheesy, it's funny,
No, yeah,
So,
yeah.
I
The
mean,
toy bus.
so those are the good ones. Least favorite. I mean, yeah, I'm not a big fan of most of the silence. I like the Incredible whatever it is,
Hulk.
the pie fight one or whatever.
Oh yeah.
You
Battle of
know,
the Century.
I think I would like Hats Off because the music box is good, but I'm talking about the ones I hate now. I don't really hate any of them. Even Atoll K, I don't hate it. It's just
I don't either. I don't hate it.
it's
But it's just a
disturbing
little dull.
sometimes because of how bad Stan Laurel looks in some scenes. But it kind of holds together on some things in some weird way. But it's not their best film. But
Mm-mm.
anyway,
But I give
I
them
can't.
credit for I give them credit for trying something new,
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad film. Like, I'm not saying it's like, again, I'm gonna bring him up. I'm not saying it's like, Adam Sandler level bad, or I don't think it's like as bad as the worst Abbott and Costello movie. I think it's I don't think it's as bad as the worst. I actually know it might be worse than the worst Marx Brothers movie. But not their solo stuff, but I just think that it gets dull.
Yeah.
It gets dull and it gets droll after a point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Probably the worst, and it's only because it doesn't really exist. Is I think it's the Rogue song. Is that what it is? Where there's only like scant footage.
Yeah,
It's
Rogue
like
song.
unless that film turns out to be a real winner, everything I've seen from it just doesn't look very interesting.
I love William K. Everson. He was William K. Everson, the great film historian. He wrote a book called Classics of the Horror Film or whatever it is, and he talks about actually seeing London After Midnight, of course the much sought after Lon Chaney movie. And he reported back to us in the book that it was a major disappointment. It was not a very good film. We've built it up in our minds because we haven't seen it. We can't see it, so we're imagining this wonderful thing. When in reality, I could tell you, there's a remake called Mark of the Vampire, which is basically the same film with different actors and sound, of course. But that movie is disappointing. So I can only imagine, what this is. But my point is, I think we build up things that we tend to not be able to see or grasp in our hands, like tangibly. And things like Hats Off. We've seen The Music Box with the Stairs. We've seen An Ache in Every Steak with the Stooges and the Stairs. We've seen It's Your Move with Edgar Kennedy lifting the washing machine up the stairs. It's like I'm a little sick of the whole stair thing. And I'll tell you the other thing I'm really sick of is Laurel and Hardy silent movies. And I blame Leo McCarey, is the reciprocal destruction thing. It's like every damn movie ends. The last 10 minutes is them kicking people or pulling down someone's pants or ripping their hats or whatever it is. I'm so bored by it, and it's so dull and it's so overrated. I'm sorry.
I think that
Laurel and Hardy needed their voices.
As someone who's rewatching them all chronologically right now while reading the book, which that's the best way to read it, right? Now, Battle of the Century, the pie fight was wonderful. I even think the mudslinging thing was fine. But after a certain point, it just gets dull. Like, when I was rewatching, and they actually did the same thing in that the short that they were supposed to appear in with Anita Garvin and
Pair of Tights.
Yeah, Parasite. it's just they're pulling it down, and almost it makes no sense to you. You forget that they slipped on a banana peel at one time, and it's like they're trying to remake it to where I know they were trying to make her then the female Laurel and Hardy, so they just replayed that gag, but it just doesn't work. It falls flat after a
It's just
certain point. It
over and
becomes,
over and over.
as Randy says in his book, it went through overkill.
Oh, please. I can't watch their silent movies, mostly because of that. It's like the reciprocal reception, the thing, destruction thing, would have been funny if they did it once or twice. Apparently, McCary came up with it at a dinner party when, I don't know if it was Mabel Normand or one of those silent about Clara Bow. What's that?
I think it was. The book says, I think it was.
Yeah, pulled the tie, and then they all started pulling their bow ties, and he got the idea, oh boy, reciprocal destruction. I wish he wasn't at that party, to be honest with you.
Now,
I wish he had some other plans that night.
Now, the question though is, was it funny for audiences at the time that wouldn't see them for a certain amount of time?
That's a great point.
Yeah,
that's a great point. You know, because I watched them, or we watched them, you know, one after another in very close proximity.
Right.
Whereas, you know, they're not going to remember this, and they wouldn't repeat it if it wasn't successful. Trust me. So.
It's just like certain TV shows don't hold up to binge watching. I can tell you one, Rowan and Martin's Laughing. I mean, it's cringe-inducing to watch the first season back to back to back to back to back, because they do the same jokes over and over every week. But if you have a week or two between each episode, and if you don't watch it every week, it's like, oh, that's still kind of funny. Or now that's a catchphrase, but it's like, you know,
even if you had the week, in between, definitely you were ready for it.
It's probably the same thing with these Laurel and Hardys. And so
as someone who's watching them, like, you know, 5 shorts a day, right, and then going to work with that and reading, it's like a pie fight. And actually, I actually think that a couple of them actually did stand out to where, like, okay, it's not really different, but it's played really well, so it's still watchable. Like the oil one in the one with the cars fall apart.
Oh, Two Tars?
Yeah. I actually think the oil one is fine. I actually think that was actually fine.
I just don't find it funny.
Yeah.
I don't find it funny.
I think the way it played out was differently, so it made it work. Okay. But I think, like, you know, it was like, you know, there was like pie fight, and then pie fight, and then mudsling, and then ice. I don't even know what the carbon and the pair of tights thing was. That made no sense to me. I had to rewatch it. I'm like, oh yeah, they're slipping on the ice cream, but how are they all falling? Are they just pulling them down?
They're pulling them down.
It just really is annoying.
Yeah. I think they played that into the ground, so to speak. So who's next?
I will clump these two together because I don't know enough about them. I mean, I know who they are, but I haven't seen enough of their films. Will Rogers and Joe E. Brown.
Oh boy. Oh, Joey Brown, you should be a fan.
I know Warner Archives has put out a lot of Joey Brown, but I just have not bought them. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. No, Joey Brown. Okay, well, let's start with Will Rogers. Will Rogers, one of the most popular people in general in the country during the time of the Depression. King of media. Actually, you want to hear something interesting? He had a daily column and syndicated in most newspapers. He made a fortune. He had his hands in every pot. But whatchamacallit, he couldn't always do his daily column. So you know who would supply a lot of the material was Maury Amsterdam. Way back when he was writing jokes for other people. Anyway, that's good party material you can use. So it's like, boy, he's so well-rounded. But as people
work with people my age, Nick.
I was going to say, as people are going, who's Maury Amsterdam? But Will Rogers.
Let's leave this week alone.
King Rob, I got a great idea. But anyway, Will Rogers was extremely popular, and his movies were extremely popular. He was a huge star, and I can't figure it out. I just can't figure it out. His jokes are great in his radio broadcasts and his writing and all that stuff, but he can't act. The movies are very mild. The laughs are generally generated by other people around him. I don't know. I guess my favorite is Judge Priest, which has a very funny performance by Stephen Fetchit. I hate to say it, but it really does. As far as bad, I didn't like Steamboat Round the Bend, which I think was the last movie he filmed before he was killed in that plane crash. But anyway, that's Will Rogers. The other one is Joey Brown. I can't. Joey Brown he was just wonderful. Of all the talking comedians in the 1930s, he could have worked alongside Keaton and Harold Lloyd and Chaplin and all those guys. He was a great physical comedian. He was extremely popular during the Depression. My dad talked about him with reverence. In fact, he turned me on to Joey Brown, especially the baseball comedies. He was great with anything athletic. That's what Joe was into. Good friend of Buster Keaton. They played baseball together all the time. They both could have been pros, actually. That's how good they were. Joey Brown, I love his movies. He makes me hysterical. One Cinecon, the last Cinecon that was live before the pandemic, they showed a very minor Joey Brown movie where he was teamed with Judy Canova, a comedian by the name of Judy Canova. Anyway, it was the hit of the 5-day festival. We cried, we laughed so hard. That's what he could do. So anyway, Joey Brown. My favorite is Elmer the Great, 1932, Warner Brothers baseball comedy, and he is absolutely hilarious. My least favorite, this isn't really fair. He made a drama in 1947 called The Tender Years. And it was a kind of a sweet little movie about a small town preacher who takes on the battle against animal cruelty, which I think is really noble and everything, but it was a pretty lousy movie. So that's mine. Sorry I talked so much.
That's okay.
This is my thing.
I'm not going to say much on this one. Camden, do you have any thoughts?
Nope, and I gotta go to the bathroom.
Okay, that's fine. We'll talk about your favorite comedian while you're gone. Anyway, no,
Okay.
I'll keep talking because so Will Rogers, I think I've seen like 1 or 2 films, and they didn't impress me much. And even my dad says, when I saw him as a kid, he just was like, "What's the big deal about this guy?" So he's probably a brilliant writer, and probably like a lot of other writers in that similar to him. Other people could perform his stuff better if he wrote for other people, or his stuff worked better on the printed page than him trying to act it out or whatever.
Right.
Possibly. I don't know. I don't know enough about him, but yeah.
You also have to know something about Will Rogers is that he was more of a stage performer than he was a movie performer.
Yeah.
He was big in the Ziegfeld Follies.
Joey Brown, the only reason I haven't really delved in further is because, I think I'm tainted by It's a Mad World, which is really the only thing I've seen him in. And it's like, I go, that's his shtick. He has a big mouth. Okay, I get it.
That's what you're judging Joey Brown on? You should be ashamed of yourself.
And it's like they never used to play him. And then, when they dump all this junk in Warner Archives, and it's like, it's even worse now because Warner Archives isn't even as good as it was. They just dumped it in there. They didn't really tell you why you should like this stuff. And
why would you need that?
What?
Why would you need that?
Well, I don't want to just randomly buy a bunch of comedy films of somebody I don't know. I'm not good at testing the waters.
They have this thing now. It's called Google.
Well, jeez.
I'm exhorting.
Okay, Google is free. I've read about Joey Brown on Google, but to buy his movies that costs money, and I don't want to just watch them on YouTube. They may or may not be on there, and I don't think they are if Warner Archives is distributing. I'm sure that they clamp down on that. So if there's a way I could like preview a couple of them and just say, "Oh, these are pretty good. Okay, I think I'll invest in this." That's just kind of the way I am. I mean, I guess I could just blindly go, "Okay." But okay, which one?
I'm the same way, Mark.
Which one did you recommend again? Maybe I'll try that one out. The one that you think
Elmer
is
the
funny.
Great is my favorite.
It's very
funny.
funny.
In fact, wait, let me talk for a second. I'm sorry. That just gets me nervous. I just like, Elmer the Great would be a great double feature with the movie called Alibi Ike. They're both baseball comedies, and he's just very funny. He's very funny. In fact, there's a lot of really good Joey Brown movies. I could recommend a lot of them, actually.
Okay.
So, based on that, maybe you'll give one a chance or something, or maybe look at one on YouTube. They have a bunch of them.
Okay, I will take your time.
I just want to interrupt real quick. If my chair is squeaking, I apologize. The way to fit this chair under, we actually took the handlebars off when I first got it. So
It's
if
been
my chair
bothering me all
squeaks, I
night.
apologize. I'm not trying to make it squeak.
Oh, no. I thought you had mice. No, I didn't even notice it.
I didn't either, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Old man ears. No, I'm just kidding.
Old man. No, that's
okay.
that's the stage phenomenon. When you're on stage and you bobble a line, you kick yourself in the butt for the rest of the week. And the bottom line is nobody noticed it but you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's your chair right now.
Speaking in church, at school, yeah, I know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh man, I did that badly. They're like, oh, you did good. I'm like, oh yeah, well, thanks. I did badly. They're like, oh wait, no. What are you talking about? I'm like, oh, you saw I flubbed it.
Anyway, so where are we, Mark?
Okay, now that we're getting into the biggies now, and there's a lot left. We're over halfway though. The
Okay.
Marx Brothers.
Who? The Marx Brothers. Oh, yeah, those guys Joe Adamson invented. Yeah.
Minis boys.
Yeah, mini boys. They were only this big.
They're Marx figures. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
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 They were part of those TV Tiny Kids spades.
That's what it is. Yeah. They're the Tiny Toon Marx Brothers. They made everybody babies for a while. Did you notice that? All the great cartoon characters were suddenly all babies for some reason.
I don't understand it. Or they gave him a son, which
yeah.
Which
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Mark can go into the Pink Panther and Son phase.
Yeah, Popeye and Son. Yeah. Anyway, so the Marx Brothers. Well, Marx Brothers. What can I say? They made 13 movies, and the truth be told, they only made about really 5 good movies in their career, in their long career. Again, they weren't movie comedians; they were stage comedians. But anyway, my favorite is Horse Feathers. And my least favorite is Go West. And that's it, plain and simple.
This is one that I'm going to actually say my least favorite too, because I definitely have one.
Uh-oh.
Well, now, if we're going to include their solo stuff.
Oh, I didn't know that.
If anything but Coca Cabana is the least favorite. Coca Cabana is also slightly tolerable, but it's still bad. But I mean, it's not even close to Mark Groucho's other movies. Bad.
Oh God, Girl in Every Port is like,
yeah, it's really bad.
Pulling teeth.
But now I have to say, I actually think, here's the thing about the Marx Brothers with me. The Marx Brothers are the comedians. I think if I showed them, here's the thing. Here's a little story for you. The second time I saw Duck Soup was the first time everyone else did. I was in middle school and I saw it. For some reason, they were laughing, they were snickering through Chaplin, they were not paying attention. For some reason, Duck Soup, everyone loved it. In fact, they loved it so much at the end of the semester, everyone watched it again. Whether they ever watched a Marx Brothers movie again, I don't know. Hopefully they did. Let's just all hope they did.
Mm-hmm.
But Duck Soup just put the house down. Okay? Yeah. And we're middle schoolers, but we're middle schoolers in private school, and we're pretty sophisticated kids, right? So we understand everything that's going on. We're laughing our butts off. Now, I think Duck Soup's my favorite, but I also really like Night of the Opera.
Mm-hmm.
And I also really like Animal Crackers too. But I would say Go West could be one of the least favorite. The Big Store.
I love The Big Store.
The Big Store is actually good, but it has some moments that are dull.
Oh, definitely. It's not a great movie by any stretch. There's certain, it's funny. We talk about, I love these discussions because we talk about, oh, this is my favorite. This is better than this one. This is blah, blah, blah. The bottom line is all of this is subjective.
Yeah.
We all have our opinions. We all have the stuff we loved in childhood that we carried over to now. Different reasons we love movies. You didn't like certain Modern Times because it wasn't good circumstances to see it, so that's
I didn't say I dislike Modern Times. I just said out of the Chaplin movies I've absolutely seen multiple times to remember, Modern Times had a bad first experience.
Yes, like, right. What you were saying. So that, yeah, it kind of colors it a little bit. It's
Yeah,
kind of like having a bad experience at a restaurant. You seldom want to go back.
right.
But yeah, no, it's interesting, but it's all subjective. No one should apologize for what they like or don't like, and nobody's judging you. You know.
Yeah.
It may be me a little, but still.
And me.
In Adamson's book.
Joe,
Are
Joe's
you?
one of my best friends. He is. Joe's one of my
I
best
love the
buddies.
laughs. We all.
He's
Now,
the best.
Mark,
the
it's your turn.
Okay.
It's your turn.
Oh, I will say one more thing about Joe E. Brown, just because I happen to flip to it. I do like him in Some Like It Hot, and he
Oh, of
has a
course.
great
How could you
ending
not?
line. Yeah, so okay, but I do need to investigate him a little further. So that's what I'll say.
Yeah, believe me, it'll enhance your life.
Marx Brothers. Okay, Marx Brothers was one of these guys, groups that my dad also disliked, but my dad grew up. He was born in 38. He grew up in the 40s, so he's seeing the 40s films first run. Those
There's
aren't
only 140. There's only what, 340s films. Yeah.
let's see. Love Happy, Night in Casablanca, Big Store, Go West. Okay.
Yeah. Well, go west.
Okay. Okay, but he's probably referring to the Big Store in Night in Casablanca mainly.
Mhm.
And they did reissue things, but he wasn't too impressed with most of the earlier ones. But he never warmed to them. I don't think he even likes Duck Soup all that much. But it might be a similar thing like Kamden with Modern Times. Circumstances dictated, oh, I don't like this very much, and haven't really gone back to it very well, or have a taint and bad taste in the mouth. Or, whoa, kept in
But
video. Anyway,
I'm sorry. I was slapping my video. But the Marx Brothers were very strong stuff. I mean, they were so distinct and so unique that I think they do fall into the category of you either succumb to their charms, or you just kind of look at them and go, this is too crazy. Stan Laurel hated the Marx Brothers.
Yeah, and Oliver Hardy loved them. He
loved them.
He golfed with Chico Marx too.
Yeah, they were buddies.
And
they were both gamblers, basically.
I think that the Three Stooges, I think a lot of comedians are like that. I think the Three Stooges is like that, because the thing about Three Stooges, you either like them or you hate them. It's really true.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah.
I don't think there's very many people saying, I kind of like the Three Stooges. It's just not a thing.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I hear more the woman thing. You know, women don't like the Three Stooges as a rule, although my wife likes them. But that's only because they're so sexy. You know?
All right. So my dad, I'm giving my dad's opinion, but then I'll give my own. Okay. So my dad always says my favorite Marx Brothers thing is You Bet Your Life. He loves Groucho Marx on that.
Yeah.
So that's really what he liked.
My parents too.
So he never went back to really investigate the older films. And I told him, I actually think you need to watch these over. He's like, nah. So big deal. So I've seen all of them multiple times. I would say probably Duck Soup is still my favorite, but I like Horse Feathers. I like all the original 5 Paramount ones. There's always at least 1 or 2 really good scenes in every one of their movies. If I have a least favorite, it wouldn't be Story of Mankind, because I actually like that as a film. It's not a good Marx Brothers film, but I actually like that as a film. So
wow, you're the one.
I'm just weird that way, but
I didn't know we were including that one.
Well, I am, just for the sake of argument. But if I had my least favorite one, and I'm not going to apologize for it. So there, you told me not to. Night in Casablanca. I don't know. I think a lot of it has to do with Harpo's wig.
You have the weirdest things. I swear.
But I don't know. I just don't find it very funny. I don't know what it is. And some people think it's like it's the only later one that's any good. It's like whatever.
Yeah.
And I actually like Love Happy a lot.
I like Love Happy too.
And I think we discussed it last time. It's a great film if you like Harpo. It's a horrible film if you like Groucho. If you're looking for a good Groucho film, don't watch Love Happy.
Right. Exactly.
It really boils down.
Although I think it's better than his solo films.
Yeah.
But whatchamacallit, we were talking about the 40s films. Yeah, Night in Casablanca, I think it has a couple of problems. I think it is the best later material they had, but the pacing is just deadly slow. The score, which is really important, the musical score, is it comes out of like Warner Brothers wartime drama. It kind of kills some of the comedy. But I will say that it is, I think, the best material they had since maybe A Day at the Races,
I'm just also
which
asking
is not
about-
one of my favorites, but
But when you say that when you say the later films, I've heard multiple things from the Marx Brothers later films. Some people say that later films are everything post Zeppo.
yeah. Oh, I'm talking about after. To me, the later films are post A Day at the Races.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like a
Yeah.
Night of the Opera,
Thalberg.
or Day of the Races.
Yeah. Right, Mark. Yeah. Yeah, post Thalberg.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I like At the Circus. I like it better than Go West, certainly.
Yeah.
And The Big Store is one I go back to. In fact, The Big Store is my second favorite of the MGMs after A Night at the Opera. A Day at the Races has some wonderful scenes, but it's just such a bloated, long,
It does seem long. I would agree with
kind
that.
of movie. Yeah, what'd you say, Captain?
It does seem long, and it seems part of this is why it seems kind of. It also seems kind of like an odd movie, and not all their movies are odd, but I mean like, as in like Groucho's in a sanatorium, and it almost seems too dramatic for a Marx Brothers film, as in like they have to get this sanatorium back, and he's just a little bit. It's just a little bit like you almost lose the plot at one point.
Well, it's just a rambling. It's a rambling movie,
Yeah.
So it's definitely their longest film, that's for
Yeah.
sure. And it seems that way.
Yeah.
It is their longest film. But there are some wonderful scenes. I really like the examination scene. I like, can't you Florida call Mr. Whitmore? Is one of the funniest things Groucho ever did. I love him being interviewed by the doctors when he first gets to the sanitarium, There's some really great stuff, but it's just as a movie, just cut out the scenes, lay it out for me, and I'll watch that. I don't have to watch, oh, we're going to lose the sanitarium,
Yeah.
Hey, we got to help Miss Judy. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Okay,
Set it on. Set it on
Nick do the
fire.
whole film. Nick do the whole film. Recite the whole film.
Pretend we're at Paramount. Set the building on fire. Blow it up. That's what we want. Anyway, where are we now?
I will clump the next two together because one is
Here we
I
go.
would prefer to talk at length about. The other I don't know because
Okay. All right.
and they did one film together, so that's good pairing. W.C. Fields and Mae West.
Oh, God, legends. W.C. Fields, probably the funniest talking comedian ever. And I'm talking about now, then, ever.
Who looks like Winston Churchill.
And he looks exactly like Winston Churchill. No, I honestly feel that about W.C. Fields, the funniest man, maybe, who ever lived. His films crack me up like no other films. He's like the George Carlin of classic comedians because he tells the truth, and that's why his movies are so great. As far as favorites, my favorite, I think, would be It's a Gift, although there are others. His early Paramounts are just gold. And also The Bank Dick at Universal is just gold. My least favorite W.C. Fields film, that's hard because there are many. But I would say that I think of his starring films, the films where he gets first billing, I would say The Big Broadcast of 1938, his last Paramount film, is really hard to get through. His stuff is funny, but it's really hard to get through. Bob Hope's first movie, by the way.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's my W.C. Fields. Mae West, yeah, Mae West was a remarkable woman, remarkable. And I'm surprised there's not like a statue in like Broadway for her. Highest paid woman, highest paid person in America for a while. One in a man's world until they brought her down, censorship brought her down. Her movies I don't really find hysterically funny. I rarely laugh out loud at them, but you have to kind of like admire her cleverness. She did do a lot of writing on her films. But I would say my favorite is there's two. One is called is her very first film, and she wasn't the star, but she steals it. It's called Night After Night. And the second one, my favorite, is the very next one. It's called She Done Him Wrong. Those are my two favorites. My least favorite, I suppose, would be like Myra Breckenridge, later on, of her classic films, it's definitely The Heat's On, her final film in the golden age, a really bad B Columbia film from like 1943, not good at all, really terrible. Anyway, so that's my Mae West WC films.
Am I going next, I guess?
Yes.
Well, I don't have a favorite W.C. Fields films or Mae West film. Mae West because I've never been a huge major Mae West fan, so I don't feel inclined to answer this one. That one. But W.C. Fields, I really like W.C. Fields, but I am going to tell you a film that I know a lot of people don't like, but I kind of do. I know a lot of people don't like his films with Charlie McCarthy.
Oh, You Can't Cheat an Honest Man.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I think it's kind of
fun.
funny. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's not even close to being as good as some of his best, but it's still fun. It's still a fun movie. When I walked into it from because it was kind of like what Mark said about earlier film. You walk into it because someone said so much bad things about it that you kind of want to watch it anyways.
Yeah.
So you went into it badly, but I liked it. I didn't hate it.
Yeah, it's got its points. It's got its good points. I have a great experience seeing that film on the big screen at UCLA, in tandem with the release of James Curtis's great book about W.C. Fields. They had a festival of his films, and it just so happens that I was sitting in front of John Cleese, who was introducing You Can't Cheat an Honest Man, and it was one of his favorites. He talked about how it was one of his favorites because his character in that movie is irredeemable. He played the con man in other movies, but he always had a lovability about him. There was always something that gave you some sympathy towards him. Nothing here. He is just a rogue from beginning to end, and that's what Cleese liked most of all. I find that Bergen stuff is fun, but more cute than haha, and you keep waiting for Fields to come back. And I'm a big Bergen and McCarthy fan, but their radio work was better, I thought.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Anyway, so what about you, Mr. Marco?
I'll kind of separate this out. Favorite short, he only did 6 of W.C. Fields, is Fatal Glass of Beer.
Wonderful stuff. Wonderful.
I still say, and
it ain't a fit night out.
Yeah, I can't even say
it. No bees.
For Man No Bees, and then it still cracks me up every time. It's like I've seen it. It's a Gift is a good one. I saw that one in the Stanford Theater, so I had to go see it. I think they paired it with one of the Marx Brothers films. I can't remember which one it was. Oh, it's Night at the Opera. So I finally saw those on the big screen about 7 or 8 years ago, and I really wanted to see It's a Gift because I wanted to see how it played with an audience. And also, Stanford Theater, I don't know if you've been to it. It's in Northern California. It's run by David Packard, who is the heir to the Hewlett-Packard people. I think they're still under renovation now because they closed for COVID and they decided to renovate the whole theater. But it's a classic movie theater. It's been around since the 1920s.
Right. You're right. Exactly. Yeah. You have to say that.
And but It's a Gift played wonderfully, and it was fun to hear kids laughing in the audience because I was wondering, will kids get this? And it's like, and they did.
That's rare.
And it's like,
That's
especially
really
the Mr. Muckle scene, things like that.
Oh. Brilliant stuff.
I jump around on who's my favorite. When I was a kid, I loved the Alice in Wonderland, even though it creeped me out because I just loved W.C. Fields' Humpty Dumpty. But as time went on, it was It's a Gift. But in film school, and this I have a soft spot for, again, how you see things, and it's still one of my favorites, if not my favorite, is $1 Million Legs. And it's odd that they showed that one in film school because it's not commonly available. They don't show it very much. In fact, I think
They don't show any W.C. Fields.
I think there's a Betty Grable film that is more known, with the
$1
same
Million
title,
Legs.
so
Yeah.
it's like, it's
Mhm.
kind of odd, but it's like, I love that film, and it is available on DVD, so it's not impossible. It's just
Yeah.
not
Have you
one,
seen
it's not part of the
International?
big sets, or anything like that. It's just a standalone.
Oh, I have it. I
Yeah,
have it in my
yeah.
set.
Yeah,
Uh,
but they
no,
don't
I
put
have
it. Oh,
it's in the DVD set.
it is not in the
Yeah.
ones that came out with the big hard slipcases. No, it's a standalone one. Trust me.
Oh, no, this is a standalone one, and it has the most W.C. Fields you'll ever see, including $1 Million Legs and
Is it
International.
more than the one that had like 5 films or something like that? Then they might
This
have put
has
it
like,
in that. I'm talking about the set where they had the red set and the blue set.
yeah, I have those
Yeah,
too, but I'm
yeah,
talking about
that's what I'm talking about. That's what I
the
have.
most recent. Hold on, I'm going to show you.
All right, show me.
Yeah. Go ahead, talk amongst yourself.
I gotta tell you one thing real quick. So
Okay.
while we're waiting for him, they only show 3. This is sad. They only show 3 silent films in film classes today. The General, any Chaplin film,
Uh-huh.
and Birth of a Nation, which again I've said this before many times, everywhere. Birth of a Nation is just a dull film. It's
Yeah. I mean,
horrible.
there's isolated sequences that are okay, but yeah, it's very
It's a
long, very
horrifying
draggy.
film. It's a
And
horrifying film that I don't understand the likability of.
well, now it's just because it exists, I think, more than it being really revered as being a good film. It's like it's any film that's over 100 years old is kind of like, wow, it's amazing it's still around, but it's
No,
like,
I
yeah,
think now it's got
it's
other reasons
it's
why.
painful. It's pretty painful,
Yeah.
but I did see it in film class when I took film class, and that was in the late 80s when I was doing film school.
I saw we they didn't make us even watch the whole thing. They said this is just too gruesome to have to
Oh.
watch the whole thing.
No,
They
they
only
should.
made us watch parts of it. They say, "Do you want us to turn it off now?" We're like, "Yes." He says, "Good."
Oh, yeah, no, they showed the whole thing, but they showed it in two.
I'll be right back, guys.
All right, they showed it in 2 class sessions because it's so long, and the class is 3 hours long, but the teacher had to have time to talk too.
Right.
So they showed, like, I don't know how long the film is. It's almost 3 hours long as it is. It's like, I think they showed like for half of it the first week, and then second half the second week. I don't know, but the scenes, I hate to say, that I like best are the ones that you're not supposed to like. Meaning, where the black people take over Congress and they're taking off their shoes and they're putting, I thought that was kind of funny. I understood it was offensive even then, but it's like, and it is doubly more offensive now, but it actually made me chuckle a bit just because of the audacity of how, they thought that was a bad thing. It's like, I wonder what D.W. Griffith would think about our current vice president, considering all that, things like that, but, oh no, they're taking over, and it's like, oh geez, but, I could see what he was driving at, and it made me chuckle in that, but it wasn't meaning I was suddenly.
We watched the part that we watched. We had to watch the Klansman to the rescue part.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God.
That's pretty painful.
And I'm
That's
like,
more straightforward. At least the part I'm talking.
I'm sitting next to a black student too.
Oh.
I'm like sitting next to like one of my friends, right?
Did you just say, I apologize? I'm sorry.
No. What am I to apologize for? It was made before I was born.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry this was made. I'm sorry it still exists.
No, but all she says in the background is just like, damn it.
Nick can't find it. He's searching forever for that W.C. Fields film. Anyway, Birth of a Nation is kind of an interesting thing. Yeah, but it is far too long. There's nothing. I can look it up on the internet. It's on Google. No, I can look it up on Amazon if you don't have a copy of.
Yeah. Just know it's the latest. Okay. It's the latest collection.
Okay, I don't have the latest version. I have the red edition and the blue edition that came out about 50.
Right.
Yeah, and it wasn't on there. It kind of annoyed me at the time, but I know I think I did see a more recent set that has like Miss Wiggins of the Cabbage Patch.
It has everything.
So
it's the most complete. It's the most
I don't have that
collection.
One either because it's not on that set either.
We were talking, Nick.
We're talking W.C. Fields.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
guys, please let's listen to each other, okay? Honestly, this is I get a headache.
Sorry.
So what? I'm sorry.
I was talking about the 3 films that we show and they show in film classes that are silent now. They only show 3.
Okay.
A Chaplin film, any one of
Yeah.
them, the
Uh-huh.
general, and then they
Yeah.
show part of A Birth of a Nation. They don't
Right.
show the whole thing just for the pure fact that it's Birth of a Nation.
Do they show
And then-
after? Do they show after Birth of a Nation? I'm sorry, it's terrible. The reason they show Birth of a Nation, and I'm sure you know this,
Yeah,
it was a groundbreaking film when it was
Right.
released. It was groundbreaking, and a lot of modern day filmmakers still look at it as an amazing accomplishment, especially for the time.
right.
It's outrageous in its racist overtones. Of course, it was made by a kid who grew up in the South with a father who told him stories of his Civil War experiences.
Right.
So he came with that information, but that never bothered me. That never bothered me. That's
It
all.
bothered me that the scene that they would show is the Klansman to the rescue scene.
Yeah, which is a beautifully cut scene. It was groundbreaking. You have to
If
understand.
you're
what
watching it, particularly if you're watching it in between 2 black students.
Yeah. Oh no, it's got to be terrible. It really does. I think everybody needs to grow up a little bit. I'm sorry. This was a film that was considered one of the greatest films ever made for many, many years. And it's shown for a reason in film courses because it really is a beautifully made film.
I can watch Gone with the Wind or anything like that without hesitation. It's Birth of a Nation that drives me, that makes me, not like I hate it, like, I don't think, like, one person in my class said something like, maybe we should just not pay attention to these films. Like, no. And I was just saying no. And I think I even interrupted the class. But I'm like, no, but she's right that you really shouldn't praise the film as some beautiful work of art if it's not that it's not, but you really shouldn't praise the film for its storyline or something like that because,
For its content.
Yeah, for its content.
For its
Now,
content.
Birth of a Nation, which you cannot deny about Birth of a Nation, it did a lot of technical innovations and all that were important, but you also can't say that the storyline is justifiable.
Well, I don't know if justifiable is the word, but I would say that it's shocking. It's a shocking film. But to be honest with you, I'm a big boy. I know where the film comes from. I know what he was trying to accomplish. And if everybody just kind of looked at history that way, rather than the way a lot of your generation, no offense, but a lot of your generation is looking at things, you're trying to whitewash, pardon the expression, but you're trying to whitewash everything that happened that maybe was unpleasant. I got news for you. 95% of history is unpleasant.
Yeah,
And,
I live in Birmingham, Alabama. Trust me.
oh
I know.
boy. Oh boy.
I'm not saying I agree with you.
I didn't notice a banjo on your knee.
I was avoiding banjo so much. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on. Let's move on. This is
All
heavy
right.
stuff.
Did I say anything? Oh, I didn't say anything about Mae West, and then we
No.
can continue. Okay, so I'll agree with you on Breckenridge. Sextet, I actually kind of like if we're talking about.
I
the
do
worst film.
too. It's a guilty pleasure.
There we go. And you said guilty pleasure, but anyway, probably Chickadee is my favorite film with her. If it's My Little Chickadee.
Chickadee.
Yeah, and I think it has more to do with her interplay with W.C. Fields. I do like the one she did with Cary Grant too.
Yeah,
So,
those two are her best. Yeah, definitely.
all right. Next on the agenda, and we've mentioned them already, the Six Stooges.
I love that. I think we talked about it in the last show, how I feel about the Stooges. I think they're very talented, blue collar comedians, very cartoony, very little substance. In fact, no substance. I think that the fact that they are the only classic team from the classic era that's well remembered is a travesty and a pure example of the dumbing down of our society. There's just no two ways about it. I'm sorry. We have, our country has the level of class that I rate with, people in the worst neighborhoods of Birmingham, Alabama, and that kind of thing. We're one of the dumbest countries in the world. We really are.
Yeah.
I'm
I was
saying
thinking
it out loud.
America has some of the smartest people. America has some of the smartest people in the dumbest country.
Absolutely, absolutely. Boy, I always tell people, it's like, there's a lot of people in between LA and New York. There's a lot of stuff going on that you people on the ends that aren't considering, I don't remember why we're talking about this.
No,
Oh, the Three Stooges. Three Stooges.
I want to talk about my favorite Three Stooges.
Okay. All right. So you want to go first?
No, you can go first.
Oh, okay. I feel like the Stooges had so much material. It's really difficult to pick. I think that 80% of it sucks. I think 20% of it is really, really good. I think very, very little of it is great. My favorite Stooge is one of the shorts, and I guess that would be Yes, We Have No Bonanza. I think Curly is completely out of control. I also like what's the one where Curly thinks he's a dog or pretends to be a dog? I forget. Anyway, but I'm also so sick of Curly Howard. I can't watch him anymore. I've tried. I really have. I've tried. I've OD'd on him to the point where it's like it really is a chore for me to watch. I have more fun watching Shemp and Joe DeRita and Joe Besser than I do Curly because I'm burnt out so badly. I think the Stooges are like I say, they're a good, almost like a kids act, a very entertaining kids act, that really shouldn't be discussed in the same light with Chaplin and Keaton and the Marx Brothers and their betters. That's how I feel. All right, so those are good Stooge picks. My least favorite, I think, it's weird. It's probably one of those later Shemps, like when they eat the cake and turn into a gorilla or whatever, one of those things. You know what? There's too many. There's too many. When the Stooges were great, they were great. When they were bad, they sucked. And they're extremely overrated. That's how I feel. Talented comics, nothing more.
Well, Mark and I are I'm sure Mark is gonna say something different too. But I really like the Stooges.
I do too.
The Stooges are what brought me into Laurel and Hardy and Abbott and Costello and various other comedians. Brideless Groom is probably my favorite. Shemp is I'm one of the people who also like Shemp better than Curly. Okay. I also, just like everyone else though, I remember growing up watching the Curly things. I'm like, you know what? Shemp is better. Shemp is just a better, funnier guy. Curly is my second favorite.
He's more human.
Curly is my second favorite Stooge, but Shemp just seemed to have more. This might sound weird, but pizzazz to him a little bit. Like he was always, it almost seemed a little bit hipper. He was like, he was just the better Stooge. No, I think that I disagree. I think that Curly is my second favorite. My last favorite are Besser and DeRita. DeRita maybe the Besser is maybe the last.
Besser.
But I kind of like, and I also kind of agree though, between the four, we're also ranking the four Stooges that were changed. My favorite Stooge in general would be Larry Fine.
Okay. It's funny about Larry Fine. I was watching the Stooges the other day, and I was looking at Larry, and I was thinking that a lot of people share that opinion. And for a while I did too. It's like Larry was my favorite. Right. Larry was the the pivot guy. He could work with either one of them and blah, blah, blah. And yes, he's very good at that. But to call Larry Fine a talented comedian is really stretching it. I mean, he was very capable. He's funny. He's funny almost in spite of himself. Sometimes, sometimes it's like he's not even paying attention, to what's going on around him. But he's definitely my second favorite Stooge, without a doubt.
Now, I also have to say my least favorite. My least favorite would be those last features they did. That Three Stooges being Hercules. That's awful. I know a lot of people like them. I honestly don't like the Three Stooges cartoons. I just don't.
Oh, they're awful.
Yeah.
They're awful. Like the Abbott and Costello cartoons or the Laurel and Hardy
Yeah.
cartoons.
Yeah.
Yes.
They just
Sorry.
really, really, really bad. And I just remember, and I remember reading something like, somebody somewhere, maybe it was Cartoon Research said something about them. They like them. I'm like, why? They're really bad. I'm just like, and at the time I was probably a Curly fan, but I'm like, still, they're just really awful.
Well, they were made for kids. They were
Yeah.
made for the matinee crowd, basically.
Yeah.
The Stooges became a kid act.
Yeah, that's what I think. Stooges became what the Woody Woodpecker cartoons became.
Yeah.
You can say the same thing about a lot of cartoon studios, but mainly Walter Lantz and stuff. It became just, let's turn these out quickly, put them in a matinee on Saturdays. The art to them was lost, I think, after those last few Shemp shorts. So after after like, I would say towards the last few Shemp shorts, the art to them was kind of lost.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think that the Stooges' career at Columbia from 34 to 58 or whatever it was, it could be broken down into segments. You had the the 30s ones with Curly, where everybody was working on all jets, and they were just like crazy. It was wild. Then their actual best period came, and that was from like 38 to 40, when pre-stroke Curly. The shorts that they made during that period, honest to God, they were the best, and they had Curly in them. And then you had the obvious things. You had the Curly Shemp, you had the Curly stroke shorts where he wasn't himself and it was difficult to watch. Then you had Shemp's early ones where he was really gung-ho, and then Shemp started having little strokes, and you see him start to slow down, and we actually see Shemp start to die a little bit towards the end. And then of course we have Joe Palma, who is probably my favorite Stooge, as the fake Shemp. But and then you have your Joe Besser and your Joe DeRita and their feature films and all that stuff. So you have all those different segments. But I have to say their best shorts were made during that period in the late 30s, early 40s. And I think there were shorts. I take it back. It's the Curly stroke ones. They're so difficult to watch. Oh, Mo, look. That's what it sounds like. And from what you, and by all accounts, that would be like the 40th take, So that would be a little
Curly
different.
or Larry there.
Oh, Mo, you're giving me a stroke too. How many strokes can Mo give his brothers? Let's count. But anyway, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump on your thing, Kamden, but are you through? Is Marco?
Yes, I am.
That? Okay.
Me, okay, I agree with Kamden. Debbie Reynolds is my favorite Stooge.
Mine too. That's so funny.
Of the 10 Stooges, Emil Sitka is right up there.
Yeah.
I love the Blazing Stewardesses is my favorite.
My favorite.
Anyway, and
I've got it on DVD. I do.
Let's see. What was I gonna say? Brideless Groom is my favorite Stooges.
That's so funny. The two of you have the same. That's the thing. Yeah.
And it took me years to figure that one out, because I used to like the ones like Hoi Polloi and things like that, but over time I said, this one's dang funny. And even just for the sequence where she goes, Cousin Basil.
Oh, God,
and he goes, let me look at you. And she goes, hold on. And she goes, hello. And then she goes, you're not my Cousin Basil. All that stuff. It's like that just little sequence there.
Yeah.
You could chop off the rest of the film, and it's like, that's like prime comedy right there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even involve the other Stooges really, except for them going, listen to those kisses or something like that. But anyway.
And then Mo kisses Larry.
I do have a soft spot for some of the Curly Joe ones, to be honest. And I actually, of the later ones, I like Around the World in Days.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. because it
Mhm.
has a solid story. Of course, it's based on Jules Verne, so but I mean, it's a solid
But there's some
story.
funny
It's a
stuff.
solid
There's some funny stuff.
script, I'll say.
Yeah.
And you can enjoy it on a different level. That's just a decent film with some people bumbling around, going around the world. And it's like you don't have to think about the Three Stooges. You could even think that they were playing a different role and just happened to be the guys that happen to be the Three Stooges.
Mhm.
Because it's like it's not hysterically funny in the traditional sense. There's not a lot of violence in it in the traditional sense of Three Stooges, but it it moves. Sometimes like Snow White and the Three Stooges, which is probably one of it's nice because it's in color, but it grinds to a halt so many times, and you're like, you know, but Cook's Tour is probably the worst, but it's just because they
That's
didn't finish
fascinating,
it
though.
and stuff like that. And it's like,
It is fascinating, though.
yeah. But and I'm a diehard Stooges fan. I do think that they deserve respect, but yeah, I agree with you. A lot of other comedians deserve more respect that we just don't
I
see
agree
as
with
much
that too.
anymore. So
Yeah.
okay, we are near the end of the rope here, but we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
I don't know how long you want to go. If we
Well,
wanna keep-
let's. I'll tell you what. Let's do the speed round.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
next one is Bob Hope. Bob
Oh,
Hope.
Bob Hope. Bob Hope. My favorite solo comedian of the 40s and 50s. Probably the best comic talent working at that point, other than Abbott and Costello. Bob Hope. My favorite Bob Hope movie, I would say, is Son of Paleface. And my least favorite Bob Hope movie is I'll Take Sweden.
I would say my favorite Bob Hope film is also Son of Paleface, or it's Road to Belly with Bing Crosby.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say my least favorite, it's not one of his movies. I would say a lot of his TV work is awful.
But films.
Yeah, films, I would agree with you.
Okay. All right. How about you, Marco the Magnificent?
I love Son of Paleface a lot. Road to Utopia.
I love Road to Utopia. It's my favorite road trip.
There's a lot of bad ones after Bo James, but probably the worst is probably The Private Navy of Sergeant O'Farrell, and I like Frank Tashlin.
Wow. Frank Tashlin, though, when he was bad, he was bad.
Or maybe Cancel My Reservation. It's awful there, but
those are some good choices.
When Bob Hope was good, he was really good, but I didn't know that for the longest time, because when I was a kid, he was doing all those TV specials where he's just reading off the cue cards.
Yeah.
And I used to ask my dad, was this guy ever funny? And he goes, well,
Oh,
he used to be. Yeah, he used to be, but they didn't show his film. And slowly over time, I saw him, and then I grew to like him. But anyway.
Yeah, but just real quick, during that TV time when he wasn't funny on a regular basis,
He wasn't.
I saw him live. I was even on stage with him. He was hilarious. He was hilarious. When he got away from the cue cards and the restrictions of the TV stuff, he was hilarious. So that's your answer.
I unfortunately met him when he was like 98, and he was out of it.
Oh God!
So
the eyes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Your favorite, Nick? Adam Sandler. No, Abbott and Costello.
Oh boy, my boys. Abbott and Costello. Okay, the funniest comedy team, I think. Abbott and Costello. My favorite would be Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. My least favorite is Africa Screams. Very thrown together mess of a movie that I don't think it's one of their better ones.
You really don't like Stooges, do you?
They wasted but 2 Stooges. They wasted it. They gave them 5 minutes each to do stuff, and that was it. And the movie, explain the movie to me. It's like, what? Huh? No. Their least good script, I should say. Their worst script. It's just like nonsense. But anyway, but Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, the best horror comedy ever made, and one of the best comedies ever made, as far as I'm concerned.
I have 2 favorites, but I really love Abbott and Costello. I would say it would be depending. Pick me on the right day. I would say Abbott and Costello are my favorite comedy team. Pick me on the right day.
Yeah.
On a different day, it could be Laurel and Hardy or the Three Stooges.
Yeah. I can't put the Stooges in the same sentence. I'm sorry.
But Pick Me on the Right Day. Actually, it would probably just be Laurel and Hardy or the Three Stooges. There were comedy teams. There are other
Mhm.
comedians I like just as well, or might be better.
Mhm.
But now Laurel and Hardy, not Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello. I think I have two favorite films.
Okay.
Alexa, stop. So two favorite. I would say Who Done It,
A great film.
and I would also say Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. But I just love Who Done It. Just the idea of having it set in a radio play. Just really, really loved it. Now, my least favorite film, I would say their last one together was pretty bomber. But the real one, I think, is those two films where they weren't speaking to each other. Like every scene was almost like the two films that was like,
Little Giant and The Time of Their Lives.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just saw those hard to watch. And also because I read about that beforehand while before watching it for the first time. And I'm like, you know what? This is just almost petty. I almost thought it was kind of petty. A
Well,
little bit.
can I just correct you?
Yeah.
They were speaking and they were friendly during those films. Those films were planned a couple of years before
Right.
when they did have a riff
Yeah.
and didn't speak to each other for almost a year.
Mhm.
But that passed. When that was over, it was over. And they were friendly. The key is the outtakes. The outtakes are available online.
Mhm.
And they're having fun during Little Giant and Time of Their Lives.
Right.
Also, you see the tension during It Ain't Hay.
Yeah, that's another one. I
Yeah.
never care for.
But that one you see during the outtakes, you see definite tension and anger. So I think that was the movie.
I think that You're Coming Around the Mountain is also not their best film.
Yeah, I
Here's why.
agree.
I think that whole plot of, you're going to marry my daughter, I
Mhm.
think has just been milked too much in movies.
Yeah.
I think I had seen that 100
Feuds.
times in movies before, to where I'm like, you know what, this has been milked so much, it's almost like, it's been used, I don't know, probably 110 times in the Andy Griffith Show. It had been used 100 times in other movies, movie serials, everything. So I'm like, you know what, this is just not a fun movie premise anymore.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
like milk,
Yeah.
too much, too far.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like my boss is coming home for dinner, but stranger.
Uh-huh. It's like Imitation of Wife. Biffle and Schuster. Mark, so how about you with
Well,
Bud and Lou? How about you with Bud and Lou?
I mentioned it on the other episode, but of course I'll repeat it here. It's like I love Little Giant. It's my favorite.
I love
And
Little
I think
Giant.
it's because I did sales for so many years, and that's why I love it. I didn't really care, or not care is not the right word. Didn't really notice that they weren't were working together, because there's a lot of Abbott and Costello things, and you mentioned it on that show, like on the Colgate shows,
Yeah.
where Costello does
Bud,
things completely by himself. It's like Abbott will say, Lou, go do this, and he'll leave
yeah.
and not come till back to the end of the skit.
I'm gonna go and find you a job. And he
Yeah,
walks off.
exactly.
Yeah.
And they
Mhm.
do that on the TV series sometimes, and
And in the movies.
yeah. And so I didn't see that as a problem. I love Margaret Dumont. She's the only person, and I said this on that show, has worked with virtually every other comedian we
Everybody.
talked about tonight. And she's just incredible, and I just love that film. Other ones that are good, I love Frankenstein. I love the Mummy one.
The Mummy's great.
The one I used to see, and I didn't say this on the other episode, that I used to see as a kid, and it tainted me for the longest time at Abbott and Costello, is Abbott and Costello Go to Mars, because it seemed like that was the only one they ever played. And I said, these guys aren't very good. So as a kid, I saw that movie and the cartoon series, and that was my exposure.
That was it? Oh
Yeah.
my God.
And and occasionally Jack and the Beanstalk, it's
Right.
like, and that was it.
I'm looking forward to the restoration.
But as far as they have a lot of good ones. I like Buck Privates Go Home.
Mhm.
I would say of their least, probably the two MGM ones.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
and I have this. Oh, they did 3 for MGM. Okay. Well, the 2 that are on that double disc.
Right. Oh, Hollywood and
Yeah.
Lost in the
Yeah,
Garage.
I just thought, wow, this is a waste, but I need my set complete. So but I've learned this, and you can tell me, Nick, as a comedic historian, whatever. how many comedians did MGM ruin careers of? It's like, really, it's like, I would say some of Laurel and Hardy's worst films were at MGM.
Mhm.
We've talked about Buster Keaton losing it at MGM, and it's the Marx Brothers worst at
Marx
MGM.
Brothers.
It's like what was it? I guess it was the prestige of being a big major studio, but it's like they didn't know comedy at all, and they all should have stayed at Paramount or
Yeah,
another
oh no,
smaller
definitely.
studio, Columbia or whatever, that knew
The, the,
comedy.
the
Yeah.
thing is, MGM was the most prestigious studio in Hollywood, and they knew nothing about low comedy. We're talking about low comedy here. We're not talking about sophisticated comedy, which they were very good at. William Powell and Myrna Loy, those comedies.
And I love those. Yeah.
Me too, sophisticated screwball comedies. But when it came to down and dirty, falling in the mud, pie in the face, fun, they didn't have a clue. Even when they hired good people, they would get in the way. We need 17 more people to rewrite the script. That's what did MGM movies in. That's what did the comedians in. Too many fingers in the pie. Red Skelton was there for 15 years and never made one classic film, not one. It's just MGM, the comedy killers.
He's actually next on the list if you want to continue with old Red.
Oh, Red?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So good films, bad films.
Red Skelton made some good films. Definitely, he made very few great ones. He made like two, and I think whatchamacallit, the Fuller Brush Man is one of the great ones. And I'm very partial to his Whistling series, Whistling in the Dark, Whistling in Brooklyn and Whistling in Dixie. Those are fun, very Bob Hope-like comedies. So as far as favorites, I would say it's definitely whatchamacallit. What's the one I just mentioned? The Fuller Brush Man is my favorite. But I also have a soft spot for the Whistling series. His worst film, there's one called Excuse My Dust. And it is just horrible. It's one of those MGM horrible, how did they come up with this? Who sold this movie? I wish I were in on the pitch meeting, because I wouldn't believe it. Anyway, it's a terrible Technicolor MGM mess of a movie. How about you, Kamden?
I've only seen one.
You've only seen one?
The only Red Skelton film I've ever seen, so I guess that's my favorite and my least favorite.
Which one is it?
Fuller Brush Man.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, it's a good.
Well, if you're gonna see one, that's a good one. Yeah,
that is a good, definitely.
I haven't seen too many of his films either. I've seen the Whistling ones; those are good.
It
seems like I Doed It. It seems like I like that one, but it's been
that's fun. That's a remake of a Keaton. That's
okay. That might be why.
Did
he remake a couple Keaton ones over the years? Yeah.
Keaton worked with him.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Closely.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's about it. But you mentioned him, so I figured we'll just keep going. So we got 3 left.
Okay.
So next, this guy polarizes people. Actually, all 3 polarize people. So we'll see how these go. Okay. Danny Kaye.
Oh, good. Danny Kaye. Danny Kaye, one of the great entertainers of all time, one of the most talented people on earth. His movies are not the greatest. They tend to date quite a bit, and his specialties have not aged well. His comedy songs, his little gittle songs that he would do, don't age well. But he made some really funny movies. I mean like 2 or 3. The first one was called Wonder Man, where he plays a dual role, and he's absolutely brilliant. The other one I would say is The Court Jester, which is, along with Son of Paleface, maybe the 2 funniest movies made during the 1950s. So yeah, and the worst, oh God, Danny Kaye made a couple of stinkers. I think A Song Is Born is my least favorite. It's a remake of Ball of Fire, and it just pales horribly by comparison. Okay, that's my Danny Kaye.
Skip me.
Okay.
What?
Skip him.
Skip him. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if I was Kamden's age, I would at least say because this
Hans
is true.
Christian Andersen.
Yeah, because that was the only thing I ever saw for the longest time, and the Rankin Bass stuff that he did.
Yeah,
It's like, but I seem to always kind of like Danny Kaye as a kid, but I never saw any of his movies. Then one day they played Wonder Man, and I fell in love. I said, "This is a great movie." Now
Mhm.
it's kind of funny that Danny Kaye did like 3 or 4 double pictures. He's like Elvis in that way. It's like you had to have him as twins. It's like interesting, but
Yeah. He played dual roles.
I don't think I think the one Danny Kaye movie I've seen, I don't know which one it was, but I didn't find it funny, so I don't think I've never seen Wonder Man either.
Funny
Wonder,
movie.
Wonder Man's good,
Yeah,
so if you ever have a chance to see it. I'm with you on A Song Is Born, but I'll say worse just because it's the other one that's like is On the Riviera because they're both kind of.
Oh, I kind of like On the Riviera.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of like
But
that one.
other one that I think is a favorite besides Court Jester, I like the other one, which I have to look it up here. Inspector General, which is very similar in a lot of respects.
An excellent movie, excellent comedy. Yeah. It's not in the same. It's not on the same level as Court Jester, but it's a fine comedy.
And I've heard that he was a hole jerk and stuff like that, but it's like he was, to quote the late Gilbert Gottfried, he was always nice to me. So
right.
it's like
he was bipolar. He was definitely bipolar.
Yeah,
they didn't know what to do about it then.
And then our next one is again similarly polarizing, and he probably was bipolar too, Mr. Jerry Lewis.
My favorite. My favorite.
And I have this book, the Jerry Lewis film.
And who wrote that?
This is James Nyberg.
Yeah, I have the hardcover.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun book.
He was a guest.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
He should have been on here, but oh well. Anyway.
Can I go first?
Huh?
What's that? Go ahead, Captain.
Polarize myself here.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I have never been a big Jerry Lewis fan, except I love his album work and I love the Martin Lewis stuff.
No, wait. You love his what work?
The comedy albums.
His comedy songs. Yeah. He did a lot of comedy songs.
Oh, the comedy song things?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then I also love his Martin. I love Martin Lewis. I just never dug his solo stuff. But I'm also gonna say I was just never been a Woody Allen film as much either. There's some films I like with Woody Allen. I'm just gonna do them both.
Okay, he's the last one, yeah.
Yeah. Woody Allen, it's Annie Hall, just because that's one of the few ones I like. Now, I like a lot of Martin Lewis films, a lot of them. And I would say, I like a few Jerry Lewis solo films too. But I would say Sailors Beware is my favorite.
Okay. You want to go now, Marco?
Sure, I'll go second. Then you can. Jerry Lewis, I loved as a kid. I mean, I couldn't get enough of him. There's a cartoon series, Will the Real Jerry Lewis Please Sit Down, even though he didn't voice it. I love the comic book. I was obsessed. It was probably an early obsession. I'd watch the telethon every year. My parents thought I was nuts because it's like, why are you watching this guy just talk to the screen, shilling for money and stuff like that? And it's like, but it's Jerry Lewis. So, strangely enough, I didn't see too many, if any, Dean Martin Jerry Lewis films as a kid. In fact, I didn't even know when he appeared in '76 when they made a big deal about it. I said, why is Dean Martin coming out here? I had no clue. And it's like, well, they made a bunch of films together. Well, I've never seen them. So it's like, so anyway, that has all changed. I've seen them all and whatever. So, my dad always said, using my dad again, his favorite of the Martin Lewis ones, he liked Martin Lewis better than Jerry Lewis. He doesn't like Jerry Lewis solo at all either. So he liked the Caddy.
I didn't say either. I didn't say at all.
But he liked the Caddy, or he still likes the Caddy the best. The one that has kind of fond memories for me, because strangely enough, it was the final film. My mom died in 2008. And strangely enough, I just got Money from Home, I think was the film.
The 3D one.
Yeah. And it wasn't part of the big Jerry Lewis set. It was a separate standalone release. And so I bought it, and it was like probably days before my mom died, and we all just sat there. It's like my parents never really got along in later years. And it's like, it was my dad and mom and me watching a Dean Martin Jerry Lewis film. And it's like, everybody was like watching it and laughing and having a good time, and so it gives me good memories. I don't think it's the best film they did, but it's like just
It united your family.
yeah, it was just kind of an odd thing.
Oh, that's nice. That's
That's
a very nice
final
memory.
memory.
That's a wonderful memory to
Yeah,
have. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
On Jerry Lewis solo films, as a kid, I loved Cinderfella. As time has gone on, it gets a little bogged down. It's a little heavy-handed, but
A little.
and yeah, and Ladies Man, same thing, and stuff like that. And the later stuff, less said the better.
Yeah.
But I do have a soft spot. Which one is one of the later ones? Oh, well, I like Cracking Up, which is really stupid. That's really later.
Smorgasbord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my favorite of all for solo is Geisha Boy. I love the Geisha Boy, and that's a Frank Tashlin one again.
That's Tashlin. Yeah.
And I like the Tashlin ones better than Jerry Lewis. I didn't think Jerry Lewis was that great of a director. I mean, he came close in Nutty Professor and Bellboy, but most of the time he was kind of doing second-rate Tashlin, I thought. So
I think the Nutty Professor is a little bit overrated.
Yeah.
I just think that people think that's his best film, and a lot of people do. I just don't think it is.
No. Well, that's why I like the Geisha Boy better. And I don't think it's the best one he directed. I think the Bellboy is actually better, but it's like, or even the Errand Boy. I like that one. He directed that one, right? Yeah. Yeah. I have to double check my notes here. So do you want me to do Woody Allen too, or?
I didn't get to do Jerry Lewis.
Okay, so do Jerry Lewis.
Oh,
Great.
I thought you meant do Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis, like you, he was my hero when I was a child, and then I grew up.
I threw up.
I think Martin and Lewis were great on the Colgate Comedy Hour during the last 15 minutes of every show. When they were doing nightclub material, because that's where they belonged. I don't think any of their movies were very good. My favorite was their last one, Hollywood or Bust. Not that it's a great film. I just, for some reason, I enjoy the travel aspect of it. It's a road picture, basically. But the rest of their movies they're all the same. Dean's a shitheel, Jerry gets hurt, Dean learns a lesson and becomes a good guy. Boom, it's over. Thank God. But as far as their films, definitely Hollywood or Bust. As far as Jerry's solo films, I don't think he ever made a truly great film. I think all of his films have some wonderful moments, but you could put them into a 30-minute sizzle reel. I think he's incredibly overrated by a lot of film buffs. I don't think he's a genius by any stretch of the imagination. He's sort of a sleazy nightclub comic who learned how to make movies from Frank Tashlin. But I guess his funniest movie for me is The Errand Boy, because it has some moments that I just absolutely love. Even though it's a mess of a movie, I love certain moments. His worst, it's Get in Line. I mean, Which Way to the Front is probably the one that I just can't get through. One of many that I can't get. I can't get through any Jerry Lewis movies, to be honest with you. I can't get through them anymore. It's done. That's one of the things. I grew up and it's over. Anyway, so Woody Allen.
You can continue.
Okay. Woody Allen to me was the logical successor to the Marx Brothers. His first comedies were comparable to those films, to the Marx Brothers films. They were the most intelligent comedies written for the day. When I was growing up during the 1970s, we had Woody Allen, Mel Brooks, and Neil Simon. Basically, those were the three that would come out with movies every year. And I have to say that Woody's were the best. Neil Simon's were next, and Mel's were. I'm not a big Mel Brooks movie fan, but Woody, my favorite would have to be Annie Hall. It's one of the best romantic comedies ever made, and one of the most quotable movies ever made. Of his crazy funny movies, I love Love and Death. It's one of the funniest movies, I think, in the last 50, 60 years. And as far as his later movies, there's so many. There's Crimes and Misdemeanors, there's Hannah and Her Sisters. He was just a very, very great filmmaker who, he I always said about Woody Allen, he was obsessive about making movies. He had to make one a year. And if he made it one every 2 years, the movies might have been better. In fact, I think they would have been better. But he sort of rushed movies a lot. And those are the ones that I find difficult to watch. But anyway, of my generation, he was the Marx Brothers.
Kamden.
I was never a big Woody Allen fan growing up because I just don't know. I like some of his movies. I love Annie Hall.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Annie Hall a little bit more when I got older though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a mature movie.
Yeah. But I just never was a huge Woody Allen fan. I don't know. I just wasn't. It's not that I don't like his movies. I just never was a huge fan, right?
Right.
So I would just say Annie Hall. I don't really think I have a least favorite. But I agree with Nick. The ones that were rushed out are not as good.
No,
from what I've seen.
Well, he has a lot of films, it's
Yeah.
like it's like going back to the silent era days. I mean, how do you delve through all
There's
these?
so many. There's
You
so
know.
many.
So my favorite will be and always will be Sleeper.
Mhm.
Bananas is a close second. Take the Money and Run.
I love Take the Money
Never
and Run.
warmed to Annie Hall as much. I like it better. And same thing with Love and Death. I like them better now that I've gotten older.
Mhm.
He definitely, at Annie Hall, he had a definite shift in career tone. And the only movie that he did later that I thought ever came close to being like one of his early films was this one called Small Time Crooks.
Mhm.
So other than that, he became like a regular filmmaker. And if he wasn't in it, you didn't even really know it was a Woody Allen film, except that it just was kind of an average film. That's about it. But if he was in it, it's like, I think the worst film that he was in has got to be the one, and I forgot the name, Hollywood something or other, where he plays the blind film director. And I really
Hollywood
wanted
Ending.
that, and
Hollywood
I really
Ending.
wanted that one to be funny. And I was like screaming. I was like, this is horrible.
I actually liked it.
Really?
Liked it.
Oh.
Yeah, I did.
And I think I just had higher expectations. I think that's what it was.
And I don't like all his movies, believe me.
And I like probably Zelig, Purple Rose from Cairo, that kind of era. I'm not a big fan of Mia Farrow in his films, but I like that era quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. I like Radio Days, and she's like in all of them, and it's like,
Yeah.
I don't really care for her in it, but I like those films. And it's like, maybe there was something to that relationship in that regard that helped make them kind of more stable films that were kind of entertaining, because even with Louise Lasser and Diane Keaton, it was like, even though those are funny, they're also very chaotic. They are like Mel Brooks films or Marx Brothers films. There's lots of chaos going on.
Yeah.
It's not very straightforward narratives.
Yeah.
But, and I know him and Jerry Lewis and Danny Kaye are very polarizing, especially, of events that aren't necessarily proven one way or the other. But it's like, I don't have a problem still liking a guy, even if he's screwed up in his personal life, if he didn't personally wrong me. So
it depends.
I still have my
Bill person.
I still have my Bill Cosby comedy albums, and I still think the ones he did in the 60s were brilliant.
And
it's
so
like,
you should.
I'm sorry that he may or may not have done that stuff with those women, but he didn't personally hurt me with it.
I agree with that too.
Yeah, so
I think that's one of the problems with Woody Allen. I think that by the time that I was growing up, that scandal had already broke out. That scandal had broken out when I was like 8. But before then, I think it was, wasn't it back like in the late 90s too?
Something like that.
Before I was born.
Yeah.
Like that whole thing with like that whole thing, basically, so they weren't on TV. He wasn't on TV as much, right? He wasn't. They didn't play him as much as they would another comedian,
right?
Right. And I think that everyone who I grew up with would have remembered Woody Allen from doing something messed up. So basically, I think that almost like everyone afterwards, his legacy is kind of like tarnished, which I think is unfortunate because he was a really good director. He was really funny.
Yeah, talented man. What about Jerry Lewis and all the allegations that are coming out about him? He was an asshole as well. But going back to what you were saying, Mark, there are certain performers that I could overlook that. The asshole behavior in the background.
Yeah.
Certain of them can't hide it.
Yeah.
Or have trouble hiding it. Jerry Lewis was one of those people.
I agree.
Like, he was the most arrogant prick. When I saw him in person, I was ushering at the theater. I got to see him 8 times in a row, and his attitude was always, "You people were so lucky to have me here." And I was like, I just got nauseous. He was.
Yeah, he rubs people the wrong way, and it's like,
Yeah.
I don't revere him as much as I did as a kid, but it's like I think I just kind of turn a blind eye to some of his stuff because it's like I never saw him in person. I never really wanted to. It's kind of funny. I just said, well, I like what I like. I didn't tend to like. I would still watch the telethon because I was a nut, but I didn't care for old greasy Jerry Lewis or old fat Jerry Lewis or old sickly Jerry Lewis. I like the young buzz cut Jerry Lewis, but it's like he can't be 9 years old forever, and it's like, well, I can still watch that stuff.
I think what made me dislike Jerry Lewis was after watching him on this.
Oh, that just made me want to shoot myself. I swear. I went after Richard Band.
Yeah, I just did not like that. He just seems so, because I'm reading this and watching this at the same time, and I'm like,
I found it incredibly offensive.
I thought it was horrible.
He was such a prick. I'm sorry. Jerry Lewis was a prick.
I'm sorry. I'll say 2 Jerry Lewis things that made me cringe in my lifetime. Well, there's many, but 2, just like that one. I forgot about that Laurel and Hardy one, but there's a documentary. I don't even think they put it in the Blu-ray now. It used to be on the DVD and the tape, but I think they've taken it off. And it's a reunion movie where they interview most of the surviving stars. And Jerry Lewis is only in Mad Mad World for like 20 seconds, maybe.
Yeah.
And he takes up the majority of the interview time, and it's like, dude, you weren't even in the film, and he's like talking about how great this and that and the other, and it's like, you probably did it where you're half asleep in your lunch hour, It's like, and I don't know why they gave him so much interview screen time, and it's like I would have killed for more interview time with like Jonathan Winters or something like that. But anyway.
But it's the same thing. It's the same thing that happened with that crappy documentary where he goes off on the senile story. I asked Richard Band, how could you allow this to go out on the thing? He said, well, he's a big name and we wanted to publicize that he was in it. And I'm like, great, you just did damage to these people you profess to love so much. You're damaging their legacy. That's the way I feel.
I've read articles where they use that as their reference.
That's what I'm afraid of. That's exactly what I'm afraid of.
I've actually read that before.
It's important to me. And it's like, and that idiot, Jerry Lewis, forever. He supposedly he was my best friend. You know what? Stan didn't like Jerry Lewis. Dick Cavett spoke about a phone call he got from Stan, and Stan was in the hospital. This was at the end. And he was asking, well, have you gotten any visitors? And he talked about that pain in the ass, Jerry Lewis. I wish he'd just leave me alone. So there you go. There you go.
The other one was, and now it's commonly available on home video, but it was the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson 10th anniversary show from 1972. I was in the museum broadcasting, and I think in New York, and I checked it out because I said, hey, I've never seen this before. And everybody comes out and does their hellos. It has Jack Benny, as George Burns. It's really good. Everybody's praising Johnny for having 10 years, which is incredible since he went 20 more years after that. But and then Jerry Lewis comes out, and it's like suddenly it's like all the attention is he's pulling it towards him, and it's like, it's Johnny's night. Will you shut the F up? It's like, and so those are the, things like that are just like,
there are some people that can't.
I think part of the reason I don't like Jerry Lewis is because I came into watching him through already knowing about that he's kind of a prick.
Yeah.
Because I'm of the younger generation, so when you read up about, I like to read up on movies before I watch them. It's just something
I'm that way too.
So, but when I read all this stuff about Jerry Lewis, I'm like, well, this is gonna be fun, and like you just don't enjoy it as much. And the same thing goes for Woody Allen. But I think I didn't like Woody Allen for other reasons. I just never found him funny. But I think I need to look back again at his older films now that I'm older.
Yeah, you should. They're very intelligent.
Yeah, I think it's very
intelligent.
like now that I'm a college student, I think I'm going to watch them very differently
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so too.
because I haven't seen them since I was in early high school. So I think it should be very different.
Hmm. I agree with you.
I know it's not in Maltin's book, but you mentioned him, and I like him more than you do. I love Mel
Mel
Brooks.
Brooks?
Yeah, I don't care
Oh,
for
I have-
his last films. His Dracula is dreadful and things like that. But when he was on, and I love Mel Brooks, and I'm glad he's still with us. And I'm glad
me
he's not
too.
making more films. So anyway,
Oh no! I love Mel.
Yeah.
Mel
Yeah.
and I worked together for 5 years, and he's a hell of a guy. I don't like his films because he came from television, writing 10-minute sketches for Sid Caesar, and he wrote some of the great sketches of all time, some of the great television sketches of all time. And that is his meter. That's his meteor. That's where he's at his best. His movies are basically bloated television sketches. Nobody's serious. Everyone's winking at the camera. Everybody's going waka waka. And after 10 minutes, I'm ready for the sketch to be over. I'm sorry. I don't find it great material. There's a lot of caca poo-poo, schoolyard humor that I think helped drag down, that helped out with the dumbing down of America. Farting scenes and big dick scenes and all this garbage. He started all this garbage. He helped bring us down in comedy. But no, I think his movies are basically overlong sketches. Some of the movies are better than others. I have a fondness, I should say. The original producers, up until the last 20 minutes, up until whatchamacallit ends, Springtime for Hitler ends, then the movie just goes to hell. But I'm not a fan of Blazing Saddles. I'm not a fan of Young Frankenstein.
really,
I'm sorry. I guessed every joke, every punchline when I first saw it.
Yeah,
was in my teens, and I'm like, no. But
Especially when
anyway.
you're in your teens and you see those movies, it does. I agree with you, Nick. I'm sorry to interrupt, by the way. I agree with you, Nick. It does. I like Mel Brooks, but I agree with you, Nick. When you watch those movies, especially when you're a teenager, because when you're a teenager, those jokes you've already heard before.
It's a lot of dad humor.
Younger,
It's a lot of dad humor.
Yeah.
A lot of caca poo-poo humor. And to tell you the truth, they're just not very good. I liked parts of High Anxiety. Had a few clever things in it. I tried to watch Silent Movie recently and just couldn't get through it. I'm sorry, he's a great sketch writer. And on a talk show, being spontaneous, his recordings as the 2,000-year-old man.
Oh yeah.
Brilliant. But he's not a great filmmaker. Sorry.
Another person I liked that I wanted to point out, but I know a lot of people don't, but I like him. And some people do, some people don't. I like Peter Sellers.
And Peter Sellers, the greatest character comedian of all time.
I don't know why Maltin didn't include him in the book.
Well, he made a lot of bad films, unfortunately.
Oh, he did. He did.
Yeah.
But you can't deny his talent. There was nobody better.
Yeah,
nobody.
I mean, if
he only made Dr. Strangelove, it would be enough.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Dr. Strangelove is another film that I saw on the biggest TV screen possible, and there's nothing you can do better than watching Dr. Strangelove on the biggest screen you could possibly watch.
To me, the greatest film comedy ever made.
Yeah.
He needed to be more like the Marx Brothers, make about 13 films, because there's about 13 films that are good.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree.
But anyway,
I think the Mark,
all right,
the Patty Freeling book, I think those were milked too far.
The what? I'm sorry?
Mark, you wrote the Patty Freeling book. I think the first Pink Panther film was fine, but then he just milked it way too far.
Yeah, I agree. I liked those when I was younger, like the Jerry Lewis movies.
Yeah.
I prefer his, I like Dr. Strangelove. I love Lolita.
Yeah.
Those movies were classics, and he was just brilliant. And then he got out of hand. He was a madman. He was literally a madman.
All right. Well, that
This
kind
was
of
fun.
covers everything. Does that?
And boy, did we cover everything.
Unless we don't
Yeah.
do Wheeler and Woolsey. You know, anyway, wow.
We're gonna do
Um,
Biffle and Schuster now. Who
What
was
about
there?
Biffle and Schuster now? We didn't break them down.
Yeah.
I always found them very funny. I know some of their films are not available, but the ones that are available are good. I think the scripts could be better.
Wow.
But they're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun. You know?
Seriously, were they as fun making them as watching
It
them?
was, I've been in, I hate to sound like, George Jessel, but I've been in show business. It's going on 48 years. And it was the most fun I've ever had in 48 years.
Let's go.
We were telling
Magic.
Mark
Just
they would be so. I was telling Mark it'd be so fun if Will Ryan was here. You could do a whole Biffle and Schuster thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, believe me, if I had one wish. Yeah, my buddy.
All right. Well, how do you want to wrap it up? Just have an abrupt ending.
Yeah, right.
Have a fade. Well, I'm quoting Monty Python now, which we didn't even talk about. It's like, but that is one of my favorite endings of a Python episode. And I just watched it. It's the ant episode, and he's buying an ant at Harrods, and at the end, he says, "Well, that's kind of a crummy ending." And so he says, "Well, we got these other endings," and he goes,
Yeah.
"Here's one: two lone figures walking the beach." No, and he goes, and then there's one where they go, "Get him," and they chase him out, and he goes, "No," and then a woman comes up to him and says, "Oh, you wouldn't like that one. Why wouldn't I like that?" And he says, "How about a slow fade?" And it slowly fades, and then he goes, "Nah," and it comes back to full. And then he says, "Okay, how about just an abrupt ending?" And that was it.
And it's out.
At the end, they just
Oh,
I
they were
love that.
great. They were just great. Oh,
right.
was that one of the ones without Cleese?
It was, strangely
Yeah,
enough,
yeah.
but he scripted it. I don't know if he wrote that part of
He
it.
wrote on it. Yeah.
Yeah,
He
but
wrote
that
on
was the original draft for the Holy Grail. That they're going to find it in Harrods, which I'm kind of glad they didn't do that, even though that one has kind of a crummy ending similar to like Blazing Saddles, where it just
yeah.
goes
That
off
is a
and should have
crummy
ended
ending.
a little more properly. But that was the thing in the 70s. You had to do that kind of zany, wacky, whoopee type stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, guys, boy, it's 11:40.
This is going to be 2 or 3 12 episodes, I think.
Wow, you're in Florida. It's an hour
Might
later
well.
there.
It is
It's
8:37 here, but anyway, so I will wrap it up, and I'll leave you on the line, so don't hang up. But anyway, so all right, that wraps it up for another Fun Ideas podcast. Thank you, Kamden. Thank you, Nick,
I'm
for your
looking
knowledge.
down. I'm doing the Brady Bunch. I'm doing the Brady Bunch. I'm looking at you. And I'm looking at you. We're all looking at each other. Okay.
All
That's
right. So we'll see you next time on the Fun Ideas podcast. Did I stop it? No, I didn't stop.